The August 21st, 2024 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. We have no need for a non-public session. First item, minutes of August 1st, 2024. Board members, does anybody have any changes?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. Any of the other two that are here? Anybody have anything? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented for the August 1st minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brad, second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we have two abstentions that we need to note in this agenda, on these minutes. I'd like to open up the first public hearing. It's the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024, on or about 6:30 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Town Hall, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider the application for issuance of an alcohol beverage permit to the Friends of Abenaki and Sarah McCarthy for an anniversary party on October 12, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge on 390 Pine Hill Road from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Come on up, yes.
Get on up there.
Just state your name so it's... No, I don't think you've just pushed the button up. No.
I don't know. Oh, wow.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm hosting an anniversary party for my parents for their 50th wedding anniversary. And I was hoping to get to serve a glass of wine to all of them with their dinner. And the theme is it's a super awesome get-together to celebrate a couple who's been married a super long time, and we're having soup salads and a glass of wine, so I was just hoping to have a permit to do that. I'm hosting about probably 35 to 40 guests.
Okay, beautiful. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak to this issuance of an alcohol beverage permit? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Question.
Yep.
Who's that young gentleman sitting down there? Does he think it's a good idea? No, not you, Chief. Can you think it's a good idea? Madam Chairman, I think he thinks it's... All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Does anybody have any other comments? I think we need an insurance certificate. And I think Amy can follow up with her on exactly what the insurance is. It's for serving alcohol. We don't have a copy of it.
We don't have a copy of it.
Usually we have a copy.
No, it's in here.
Okay, just all you have to do is make sure you send it in prior to the date and follow up with Amy. Board members, any other questions? Can I have a motion?
Motion, subject to the receipt of an insurance certificate to Amy. Motion to approve an alcohol permit for the Friends of Abenaki on October 12, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Paul, second by Dave. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Done.
All right, we'll move on to... Okay, I will do the next public hearing. I will open it. Is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for the acceptance of unanticipated funds in excess of $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B3A relative to the New Hampshire Clean Diesel Grant Program for the purchase of a snow groomer for Abenaki Ski Area. The purpose of the hearing is to authorize the town manager to sign the grant application and for the board to approve the estimated unanticipated funds up to $60,000 towards the purchase of a replacement groomer. It says the town manager, Mr. Randall, are you ready to talk on this?
Yes.
Can you just pull the mic down?
Yes, so it's basically, we have a chance to get that $10,000 grant from that clean diesel program. So it'll be $10,000 of free money off the top of that.
60.
60.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yep.
$57,500.
57.5.
All righty. Do I have anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this application or public hearing? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. Board members, any questions, concerns?
Are we happy with how the grant application is filled out? Because I did have someone who is in the Energy Committee who writes a lot of grants that said that she would help and look at it to make sure it's all in good shape. Are we comfortable with this grant before it's signed to go out to, it's the New Hampshire DES, I believe.
I believe this
Or is it USDA? It's one of the two. But, so that's just my only question.
Well, I might be able to answer that.
Go ahead.
Last meeting I was at, Chuck Smith said that he has been working with the state, with the application
Okay.
to the state for this grant, so I would feel comfortable with it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just asking because if you put in a grant that isn't complete, it comes right back and then you have to do it all over again.
No, he's been working directly with the state on it.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you for both of those comments. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, can somebody give us a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve and accept New Hampshire Clean Diesel Grant Program award up to $60,000 under the provisions of RSA 31:95-B3A to be utilized for replacement of the Abenaki Alpine groomer. Further, to ensure the existing groomer engine to be decommissioned and to authorize the town manager to sign all documents.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave, second by Brad. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. I am going to step down for the next public hearing and pass it over to the vice chair.
Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. The acceptance of unanticipated funds in excess of $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B3A relative to a donation from the Wolfeboro Fund in the amount of $20,000 made to the Wolfeboro Energy Committee to expand solar and energy in Wolfeboro and to reduce the costs for the town, taxpayers and ratepayers. Somebody speaking to this?
Okay. Hello? Okay. My name is Nancy Hirschberg. I'm chair of the Energy Committee, and we have been seeking funds to help support the growth of solar and storage. We asked KC to create a Wolfeboro Energy donation account so that we could accept donations. The purpose of the donation account is to provide funding for the Wolfeboro Energy Committee to direct toward town energy projects that will increase efficiency, save energy, and reduce costs and greenhouse gas emissions. To be clear, this is money that we will raise from donations to be put toward energy projects. There are no taxpayer dollars used for this donation account. Examples of sample projects may include funding renewable energy installations such as solar photovoltaics, energy efficiency audits or energy consulting, loans for renewable energy efficiency or electrification projects, electric vehicle charging stations, consulting or engineering for energy efficiency, energy storage and local generation of power, and other activities as determined by the Board of Selectmen as advancing energy efficiency and clean energy in Wolfeboro. The money is not to be used for the benefit of any specific resident or commercial entity. It's for the municipality. The Wolfeboro Energy Committee will make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on how the funds will be dispersed. The Board of Selectmen will have final decision-making authority. We're currently, so I've been out raising money. We're raising money for 2 projects. One is for the library to do the solar, and the other is for additional solar and energy storage projects on town-owned properties. On the latter, last year, we issued an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and we had some amazing responses from it, demonstrating enormous potential for cost savings for the town, in town with solar and energy storage. I just want to be really clear, we're working hand in hand with Barry. We see these projects potentially saving the ratepayers and taxpayers millions of dollars. The challenge is that the committee which is full of unbelievable expertise in this, all have full-time jobs. And so now we need to really advance the project. And Barry doesn't have anything in his budget to hire someone. So I went out to fundraise, and we've asked for $20,000 donation that's being considered today from the Wolfeboro Fund, is to help pay for a consultant to advance this process so that we can come to you with a plan and a proposal in the future. So we are extremely grateful to the Wolfeboro Fund for this generous donation that we hope will benefit Wolfeboro greatly, and I hope to be coming back to future meetings with more money that so we can build that fund to do more and get the library solar and other projects. Any questions?
Okay, any questions from the public? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Board?
Nancy, what's the balance in the Wolfeboro Fund?
And this new fund is zero in it right now because we just created it. We're asking you to accept the first $20,000.
Okay. And then unrelated, but related, since you brought it up, you made a comment that as a predicate of getting a request for information or a quotation or what qualification, you got something that produced, using your term, an unbelievable benefit for the town? Or some,
No, I didn't say unbelievable, but a huge benefit. Yes.
Huge.
We
right.
had in the RFQ.
That's right underneath unbelievable. So huge.
Yeah.
So my question is, as the Energy Committee person, can you make sure that that conversation finds its way into the budget discussions? If we're going to see a benefit, we should probably
So,
have a discussion at the budget level as to how that benefit can get accrued.
and that's why we don't know.
Fair enough.
Until we go out with an RFP, we won't know what that benefit is. These are rough numbers right now that everyone,
So you got rough order of magnitude. You didn't get something. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the donation of $20,000 in accordance with RSA 31:91 B3A from the Wolfeboro Fund to be used for expanded solar and energy in Wolfeboro.
I'll second that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll open up the next public hearing as the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold the first of 2 public hearings on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, regarding the amendments to the Town of Wolfeboro Ordinance, Chapter 140, Article 3, Sidewalk Ordinance. The Board of Selectmen established an ad hoc committee last year when there were questions about placing tables and chairs, et cetera, on the sidewalks. That ad hoc committee worked over the winter and brought to the Board of Selectmen a set of recommendations. The board accepted those recommendations and then took the recommendations and put it into the town ordinance under Chapter 140, and it was under the Section 3, which said sidewalk obstructions. So we have that new wording here, and we're asking for public input on any concerns, questions, support for these changes. So is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak?
Hi, Bobby Goodman. How'd you know that was going to happen? I just am still concerned about our diagonal parking anywhere we're giving the permits, that we need to make sure that in some way we're putting a line stop, we're putting some type of system in place that cars are not allowed to park over the parking lot. Because if we're maintaining that 52 inches, is that what you...
50 inches is what the committee had recommended and is in the ordinance right now.
So if we have the cars parking over those 24 inches, we're not meeting ADA standards to get down the sidewalks for ADA compliance. So I'm still just very concerned about that as a member of that sidewalk ad hoc committee, that we need to take into consideration ADA requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Suzanne?
Could you read what the regulation is?
Pardon me?
Read it.
You want me to read all the pages?
Well, can you
Okay.
encapsulate?
I will try to highlight. How about
Highlight
that?
it, yeah.
Will that work? Okay, the first part, we're changing from 36 inches to 50 inches. This is a seasonal permit that allows table, chairs, signs, stools, booths, kiosks, billboards, or other similar objects on the town sidewalk. Flags now need to be no lower than 7 feet, and that is a building code requirement for something that hangs over the sidewalk. The seasonal sidewalk permit is needed each year. It will be from April 1st to December 15th. There should be nothing on the sidewalk from December 15th to March 31st, except for Christmas decorations, that there's exception. The seasonal sidewalk permit is $50, must be applied for to place objects on the sidewalk, whether it is private or whether the land is owned privately or by the town. The business owner must post the permit. We're talking about just about anything on the sidewalk. Okay, anything on the sidewalk must be monitored for cleanliness. That's one of it. Right now, in it is a business is limited to one table no greater than 24 inches by 30 inches and 2 chairs per 8 feet of business frontage, or one bench or other feature for any length per 8 feet of frontage. And that's one the board still needs to discuss. The Board of Selectmen has authority to grant exceptions to this orders when a temporary event permit request or for a temporary event request. It says A-frame signs, and we took it right out of the planning board's code on signs and stuck it in here, and it means that you cannot have an A-frame sign that obstructs pedestrian or vehicle traffic, including ADA access. There are penalties. If the first offense in 48 hours, if you comply, there will be no penalty. Second offense will be $50 fine. Third offense will be $100 fine, and object removed for the remainder of the season, but the business can apply the following year. Enforcement will be the code officer shall be responsible The police department and the town manager may enforce compliance and can also issue fines for non-compliance. The Board of Selectmen at a scheduled meeting may revoke a permit for cause. There's an appeal process. It will take effective date when we vote it in. We will not vote until September 18th, and that's the general.
Thank you for doing that. And I'm glad to see you have a mechanism for enforcement. Sometimes we have ordinances that are vague as to who enforces them. The next question I would have is, how are you going to distribute this information to all the sidewalk people?
I would say that at some point, we haven't talked about that, but
Okay.
assume that once it becomes the ordinance, I'm sure the chamber will help to get it out, and we can also send it to the businesses, a notification.
I would hope that it would come from the board to the proper people that have property on sidewalks.
Okay?
Not rely on the chamber. That's your ordinance. It'd be nice for you to
Okay.
send a nice, polite letter of information. And the third thing is, since you have a sidewalk committee, are you disbanding them, or are you going to keep them in place?
It was an ad hoc committee to come up with these changes, so
It's just for that?
yeah, that's as far, my understanding of what their mission was, they
So
completed
that was their
mission.
marching orders
Yeah,
for that?
yes.
Okay, then I would just politely suggest that maybe you want to think about your master plan calls for a management plan, something like you have for roads, a best management plan, long-term. It's nothing I'm interested in paying tax dollars on right now, but somebody needs to put together some sort of long-term master plan for the financial aspect of inevitable sidewalk replacements and upkeep and maintenance. As I've often said, it'd be nice to see them pressure washed, if nothing else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a fund for sidewalks,
We have a capital reserves fund for sidewalks.
which is for maintenance and could be used for
I
washing.
don't, I'd have to go back and read how it was set up. I don't know if maintenance was included in the,
No, I think, I believe is it for maintenance? Just for reconstruction of sidewalks?
yeah, I thought, but I'd have to read it. We need to read it to make sure. But that's my understanding, too. Is there anybody else who would like?
Hello, Alex Hunt, owner of Bradley's Hardware. My question to you is the spirit of this ordinance only to control tables and chairs?
No, any object on the sidewalk.
Okay, so my granite steps, which you're all familiar with, are 36 1/4 inches off the curb and are required by the zoning at the time in 2005 from the building inspector as well as the fire chief to allow customers into my business. So if this were to go forward, how do you propose I get customers into my business?
I would imagine if they're permanent. Now, do we take care of that sidewalk? Do we
No,
clean
I
it?
maintain it.
Okay, then it's not a public sidewalk.
And it's on my property.
If we don't maintain it, remove the snow, it's not a public sidewalk, it's your personal sidewalk, and this doesn't cover that.
Okay, thank you.
It is the maintenance and the building of the sidewalk which causes the, it to be a public sidewalk. If it's on somebody's private property, the town doesn't maintain it, doesn't repair it, doesn't do anything to it, then it's the personals. And that's was my reading of what the town attorney said to us. But I will get clarity, because I think Brian is questioning it, but I will get clarity to make sure my understanding is correct.
We have another public hearing anyway.
Yes.
We have another public hearing before we vote. Is there anybody else who would like to give us any public input on this?
Hi, Cindy.
My name is Cindy Patton. I am the owner of Black's Paper Store with my husband. There was a reference in here of limiting tables, but to 2 chairs and 1 bench. And obviously, I'm not worried about my benches because there's 3 benches there, which I think probably would be a disservice to remove for people because they often seek shelter from the rain or from the sun. So the number of benches we have out front won't be a problem. But it doesn't say anything about clothing racks. So I don't know how many clothing racks we would be limited to in front of our business, as well as the benches.
I think that, and I'll see what the other board members, my understanding, that was one section of this ordinance that we had not decided on, and that is 14019 object. A business is limited to 1 table no greater than 24 by 30 and 2 chairs per 8 feet. And I am hearing you say that that would not work for you.
Right. I mean, I have a lot of people who will sit, especially bus tours, because they're waiting to get onto the bus on Railroad Avenue, so they'll congregate in the front of the store and try to keep themselves from being on that busy street. And then the second thing I was kind of concerned about was for Great Waters, they put the pianos out.
And they get permission from us each year for that.
Okay, so they won't have to apply for a permit for each location, we'll just submit one. And not only that, they're a not-for-profit, so.
I don't believe, well, there may be one, they usually come to us and ask for permission each year to put them on the sidewalk. And in this ordinance, we have the right to waive.
Okay, all right.
We might want to make a notation in it somehow for either Great Waters or a nonprofit or something. I don't know how we're going to do that, but because the other one is, it does say under 140-19 objects, tables, chairs, clothing racks, and other outside objects are allowed directly in front of owners' businesses as long as the objects do not infringe on the town's minimum standard of 50 inches.
Yeah,
So-
which we made sure that
Yeah, so clothing racks are listed.
they're there. It just says that they're limited to in a certain
Yes,
section.
I think, yeah, I think that whole issue about 8 feet of frontage, which is on this other section, I
Yeah.
think we need to address.
That's that, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we typically stay away from the Railroad Avenue side because that sidewalk is narrower. There's a lot of traffic there, and there's people getting in and out of their cars there at the same time. It's just a stupid place to put something and not expect somebody to get hurt.
Yep.
And other than that, I'm assuming that because the sidewalk, the chalkboard signs come in at night, that's still reasonable, but we'd still have to apply for a permit to do that.
The A-frame sign part, if you apply for your benches, you get the whole works.
Okay.
Your A-frame sign is my understanding. Brian, is that your understanding? 1 permit regardless?
Okay.
And then you'll give us a map and show us where you put it. The part about the A-frame signs, that they leave that 50 inches.
Yeah.
We've had some A-frame signs come out and you hardly can
Yeah,
walk
much
down the
further,
sidewalk.
yeah,
That's what we're
yeah.
trying to make sure we maintain.
And then the other thing is that it was limited from April 1st to December 15th. So if the weather is nice in March and we put things out on the sidewalk, we don't have permission to do that.
That's the way this is written, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. And we're
So-
allowing for holiday decorations and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just with climate change, it's been warmer sooner and longer. So,
Okay.
I question the
So you're
dates.
questioning to make it earlier than March.
I mean, obviously, in November, it's pretty windy on the Railroad Avenue Tunnel. So you don't put anything out because you know it's going to be across the street at Bailey's Bubble. And Mother Nature has a nice way of making sure that you don't put anything out. But I would say the beginning of the season, it's kind of nice for people to,
So would you think March 15th would be
I think
better?
March 15th might be more reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public who'd like to give us any comment on this? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, I think we really need to deal with the number C. My feeling is that we should have, when the permit comes in, decide based on the permit. So if we think there's enough space to put 2 tables, we allow them to put 2 tables. If they don't, we don't. When I look at Locotopia, it has a table, 4 chairs. There's plenty of room for anybody to walk, and I'd hate to bring them down to a smaller table where down Railroad Avenue, there isn't the space, and so this makes sense. So I think when I look at it, I think we should do it on an application, looking at them individually and realizing that we have different sizes of sidewalk, which will be what dictates in order for us to keep the 50 inches.
We should,
right?
we should probably also ask the business owners to do the best in keeping their chairs and tables where they're set based on their permit, because they do get moved around a lot, and it's not their fault, it's customers. Customers will come and they'll change their chair in a different, orientation, and then they can end up all over. So it's just something that, if the business is going to have the availability to use the sidewalk, they should make sure that the sidewalk stays clear when they're using it. We're also going to have to look at the public-private sidewalk issue a little bit, and make sure that that a private sidewalk is definitely one that is built, manufactured, cleared, cleaned by the business owner 100% of the time, based on what our attorney's response was to us.
I think we need to get that opinion back out to all the board members.
Yeah.
We were all
Have it right
giving
here.
it to it, and he said
Yeah.
that was what we, that if it was owned by it was the fact that we maintained it,
Correct.
repaired it, gave us the easement and the authority to control what happens. If we don't maintain it, we don't shovel it, we don't do anything to it, it's on a private piece of property. If you look down there, and I'll take Alex's property, there is no crosswalk. You go down there and you say, oh, I wish there was a crosswalk. Well, the reason there isn't a crosswalk is because that's private property. We don't have any way to run a crosswalk off
Correct.
of his property. So I think that I'll make sure before the next hearing everybody gets that legal opinion again. Any other board members have any question? Are we all in agreement that we need to reword C?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
No, you asked your question. Go ahead. And then I'll-
You do yours, and then...
So I think a couple of things for clarity, and I think Alex pointed it out. There are businesses here in our town that have a pre-existing condition that is non-conforming. We run ice cream shops. We're non-conforming right off the bat. So I think we probably need to noodle how we're going to deal with non-conforming structure.
I think D does it.
Maybe. I just want to make sure we check the box. Ms. Budman raised an issue, and I'm not sure I found it in the ordinance. Her issue is outside of the ordinance, this idea of cars, angle parking over. If that's an issue, the question then is, do we put it in the ordinance, and what does that mean for somebody's car that now is 18 inches backed out onto Railroad Avenue? So that's going to be a little bit of got to think that one through. And then the question that I was asked, somebody read the ordinance, and I didn't have a clear answer, so I'm going to admit to my not being prepared. Where does the 50 inches begin? Does it begin once my table is there and then 50 inches from my table, or does it begin at the side of my building out 50 inches?
It goes from the curb in.
Into your table or into your building?
You don't get the table if you cannot maintain. You've got to have 50 inches of cleared sidewalk.
So the 50 inches is from the sidewalk all the way to your business.
50 inches from the edge of the curb to whatever is on the sidewalk, not a set of stairs that are built into the building, not the building itself, but anything that's on the sidewalk.
So the 50 inches begins from the structure that's on the sidewalk out.
Correct.
So then the question is going to be people.
the other
we
direction.
need
It's
to-
the other direction.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
from the curb in.
From the curb in. So people need to understand that they may be non-conforming, and we just need to understand how that works. That's all. And I think the hot spot that we're talking about is Railroad Avenue. Maybe, I don't know other places where it may affect, but I think the hot spot is in Railroad Avenue. The angle parking, which, Bobby, I read it, it's not in the ordinance, so that's someplace else. The nonconformity of people right off the bat, I don't know how that's got to get dealt with. There'll be carve-outs. And then where does the 50-inch, how do you measure the 50 inches? That's the only three issues I have at the moment. Thank you.
So the 50 inches is from the edge of the curb to wherever let's say the farthest part of the table and chairs sticks out into the sidewalk. You could measure it the other way. From the farthest part the table and chair sticks out, it has to be 50 inches to the curb. Doesn't matter which way you measure it.
Made my point.
With regards to parking, we've talked about this before, and Mark Livy addressed that with us. The angled parking, there is a parking ordinance. If the car goes over the sidewalk significantly enough, it is considered actually parking on the sidewalk. So there is a parking ordinance, I believe, for that. We could try and put up barriers down all the roads in town to keep people from parking with their bumpers hanging over the sidewalk, but I don't think that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, so based on your comments, Paul, is there a section of this ordinance you'd like to add more language to?
I'm going to have to, as I told you, I was unprepared, so I will add some information to you, and we can bring it up the next meeting. Is that okay?
We can see if we can
Yeah,
put it in.
okay.
And
Those
this is
are
what
really
this
my
is.
issues, it's just and I'll figure out where we need to put it. It's where the 50 inches begins, so that people can be clear. You got a sidewalk, 50 inches in, you hit a table, that's all you get. Or is it to the building? And I think the answer now is to the table, or to the clothes rack, or to the piano, or to the machine where you put the card in and you get money out so you can buy ice cream. So all of that stuff we need to understand, because I think what'll happen, I'm hypothesizing here, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get lots of requests for carve-outs. And we just need to understand how we deal with all that. That's all.
So 140:15 of the ordinance says, a property or business owner must maintain 50 inches of sidewalk from the street edge to the placement of any object on the sidewalk unless there is a prior agreement with the town. I think it's fairly clear.
That's the proposal in the ordinance.
Yeah, I think that's fairly clear.
I think the other thing is, we're talking about placing things on the sidewalk. If you've already gotten a permit from the town to have a curb coming in, we're not talking about that.
Right.
We're talking about taking something and placing it on the sidewalk, and that making sure what's placed on the sidewalk leaves open 50 inches of passage. If there's something that's granted, like his steps going in, if that was a public sidewalk, that was granted. We're not talking, he's not placing that on his sidewalk each day. So I think there's a difference. We're talking about putting something on the sidewalk. Anybody down this way have any questions, Brad or Dave? Brad?
I just got one comment. Somebody had mentioned about monitoring that the tables and chairs don't get, they would tend to get moved around somewhat. And under 14019B,
Yep.
which states now that any object placed on the sidewalk must be monitored for cleanliness, which includes trash, dirty dishes, we could actually just add in there, after the word monitored, must be monitored for locations and cleanliness, which includes trash and dirty dishes. That way it puts the responsibility on the owner to kind of keep an eye on the tables and chairs, make sure they don't end up out in the middle of the sidewalk. And they kind
Well,
of
it
just
should be.
keep an eye on them, that's all. And
So it says, any object placed on the site that must be monitored for location of object and cleanliness, including trash and dirty dishes.
Yep, so just adding that location portion into it, just to cover it.
Great
Okay.
ad, Brad.
So I hear you making a motion to make that change?
Second.
Okay.
and I have Brian a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else? All right. Are we in agreement that C needs to be changed and to come up with some wording that gives us flexibility?
Yeah.
All righty. I will try to draft that. Brian, you want to work with me to draft?
I think simply it just has to say a business is limited to the amount of, and we can list the items that we've listed before, that fit in their area in front of their business and meet the ordinance. So it basically has to just say that it fits within the geographic lines of their building and it meets the ordinance.
You and I can write that, and we
doesn't
bring
encroach
it,
on the 50.
we bring it to the next meeting,
Yeah.
well worded?
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Doesn't encroach. No.
Okay, Brian and I will do that. Is there any other wording or change? All righty. At some point, do we want to have the police department write up what you were talking about, Brian, about if your front of your car is X amount over the sidewalk?
Do we want to include that in here?
I think we need to have it here and take a look at it and whether that needs to be included. That kind of addresses your issue and it gives, so why don't you and I look to see if we want to put it in here or whether we want to leave it as an attachment or something.
We could also just reference that parking ordinance in this.
Whatever
That would
way.
probably be the easiest way.
Yeah. Well, I think we should have a copy of it so we know in case we get questions on it next
Okay.
time. Okay, board members, are we all set with this?
Yep.
All righty.
Thanks, Linda.
The number 3 is the bulk vote. The only thing we had are the manifests for last couple of weeks. On August 9th, we had $698,682.36. August 16, we had $614,655.06. Can I have a motion to accept the bulk vote?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Dave, second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, first item under 5 is tree removal and replacement expandable truss, and I'm going to pass this over to Steve.
So as of right now in our tree management program, we have a balance of about $83,000. And we still have a fair amount of dead and dying trees we need to remove. And we also have a plan to do some planting this fall. So we are looking to access $62,000 of that, with 45 for removal and the additional 17 for replacement. Right now, we are looking to do 21 trees throughout town to put back some at Clark House, Sioux Glen Playground, Foss Field, Glendon Street parking lot, the entrance of Bridge Falls Path and the railroad station, and one out here in Town Hall to replace the one that died that we had to take down. So this is a joint effort between Parks and Rec and the Public Works Department. So we'll try to do as much of it as we can in-house. There will be some outside help from a local company to do some stump grinding in a few places, and the rest of it will be for purchasing new trees. Happy to ask any questions you might have.
Board members, do you have any questions or concerns? I did drive around. I looked at where the trees were going to be planted and where some of them had been taken down, and I felt it looked like a good plan. I wonder whether we want to get this up on the town website in case somebody who has some interest and want to take a look at what we're doing. As I recall, we had our tree warden
Yes.
worked with you and gave you the types of trees that would be planted in the different locations?
Yep. So Kirk Titus came around, he went out with Jim McPonis from Parks and Rec, they came up with the tree replacement plan, best trees to put in what area, recommended that we budget for tree maintenance going forward for these new trees, and worked hand in hand with us to get this finalized.
And we have a cost. And how much was it was it $1,000 for maintenance?
4, it's right on the first.
4.
I have a breakdown on the bottom of the first page.
Ah, there it is. Yep.
And that maintenance is in the ask.
Is in the ask.
Yeah, it's in the 62 that we're asking for.
So for the audience, we're looking at about $1,800 to grind stumps. We're looking at $10,286 to purchase trees. We're looking at $4,000 to maintain those trees, and compost for planting $300.
That's it.
All righty, so there are 2 trees at Clark House, 4 at the Sioux Glen Playground, 8 down at Fossfield, 2 the Glendon Street parking lot, 4 the entrance of the Bridge Falls Path and the railroad station, and the 1 at Town Hall.
Total of 21.
Okay, any other comments? Can I have a motion?
Let's see.
You want a motion for the 83,000?
62, I think, is what he's asking for.
Yes, just the 62.
52 of the 83?
62 of the 83.
62.
I'll make a motion that we approve the removal of $62,000 from the tree removal and replacement expendable trust.
Second.
Any further discussion?
If we could, Linda, please. And just reference the Mr. Randall's proposal to us dated 15 August, tree CRF. That way we all know what.
Perfect.
money
I'll
for.
add that to my motion.
Okay, thank
You
you.
okay to add that? All right.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next item, discussion approval of South Main water line replacement schedule. Steve?
So the South Main water project is due to start back up on September 3rd. And after a meeting that we had with the contractor, the engineer, town representatives, DES and DOT on the 15th of August, I'm here to ask the board to authorize some alternate working hours. So right now, the contract calls for 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. But with the amount of work that needs to be completed before the winter comes into play, we just kind of like to be proactive in that decision to open those up and then basically allow me to dictate that on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis as we get going or the need arises. We're just looking to trying to streamline the process to try to get ahead of that. We want to make sure that we don't really have a choice. We have to make sure we have that done by the time cold weather comes in.
Yes. And Steve, we're going to have one lane to traffic?
So sometimes there'll be one lane. The goal is to maintain 2 lanes of traffic at all times. I would like to add, separate from this, next Wednesday on the 28th, right here at 6 p.m., we're having another public hearing information session about that project. And I'm hoping to get as many people that have any questions to come to that as they can. Engineers will be here, contractor will be here, and we'll be here to answer any questions you might have on it.
Okay. Board members, any questions for Steve?
So if I could, just to maybe give you a plug. So the public hearing, I believe that you're discussing, for those people who are interested in what's about to happen out there. There was a public hearing a while ago, and representatives from the state, Stantec as well, were here. Members of, abutters to this project had an opportunity to come up and say, what about my water line? And one of them happened to be a gentleman and a spouse up here that runs an inn. And then somebody asked about, well, what happens to my ice cream shop? And I wasn't here for it, but I think what you'll find is that the people that are doing the work, planning the work, know their stuff. They were answering very direct questions about the capacities of the water lines going in and out of people's businesses, going in and out of people's homes. And it was very well done. And so if you're interested in that, I'm sure it'll be on television. Or if you want to come and ask questions. I think it'd be very worthwhile if you have an interest in what's about to happen, because it's probably going to be messy out there for a bit of time. But I think it's important that you show up, at least visually or virtually.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I would just like to clarify too for anybody, this is not the roundabouts in that
Right.
section
It ain't
of the
that.
project. This is strictly for the water main down through here, so.
Correct. That's the Wednesday 28th meeting.
Excuse me?
The
Wednesday,
Wednesday
the 28th is for the water main replacement, not the roundabouts in that
That's right.
DOT part of South Main. So just so that everybody's aware and they know what they're coming for.
Yep. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, I'm going to ask that we skip over C. We do not have the town administrator from Alton here yet, and so we'll put that one off to the side, and when he gets here, we'll kind of come back. So we have another C here. Discussion, lease purchase of tasers for the Wolfeboro Police Department.
Good evening. This you probably recall from prior conversations with Captain Libby. I understand that the reason why I'm here is because it's a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
And it's an event that was budgeted for. We are able to pay for it. This is similar to what occurred prior to COVID with the last 5-year contract. The current tasers have expired as far as their liability protection and protection that Axon affords departments that use their equipment. During the 5-year contract program, they do, as part of that price that we pay every year, cover us liability-wise as well.
So it is my understanding that you have $13,007.40 in your budget this year that can pay the payment in September 2024.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from board members?
Just a couple. What's the lifespan of a taser?
About 5 years.
5 years. And are they warranted for that full 5-year time?
Yeah, that's part of the whole contract. It's a 5-year period block.
Okay. And so there's no other maintenance costs or anything that go along with that? So they need to be replaced every 5 years?
That's the standard.
Okay, perfect.
That's as long as Taser will
Tase.
support that equipment.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think that I had seen something from the town manager. We're giving some thought to starting a revolving fund to take care of some of these items that we know are on a rotation basis, is my understanding.
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
Paul?
Yeah, just to refresh me, because I was here at the last 5-year cycle. If I understand correctly, the taser manufacturer warrants that the data that is brought back from a deployed taser is, you can use that in a court case. If you're outside of the 5-year period, they don't warrant that. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's one of these, you could have a taser in year 6, you deploy the taser, nothing that happened coming back from that taser to the device prospectively could be admissible as evidence in court.
Correct.
Okay, so, we could all sit around and say that's a bad deal, but that sounds to me like that's the way the taser manufacturing industry is working. So it's one of these, if we don't renew the contract, we have tasers that are not part of a professional kit that you carry. So it's probably, we got to do this. But I think, I did see the same thing, and I think we all did. Jim wants to create something of a sinking fund, or whatever the right term is, a revolving fund in order to do it.
Yeah, I think that is, and the fact it's already gone through the budget process
Yeah.
because it's in the 2024, we've had a discussion on this before. Is there anybody? So we have to make a motion to approve the purchase of the TASER and by entering into a contract with AOC Enterprise, Inc. for a 5-year contract totaling $68,730.60, with the first payment being $13,007.46.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Who beat him? Was it Dave? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, next on the agenda is the request to place a little free library at the Fossfield Pavilion by the Winnipesaukee Daughters of the American Revolution. There is also going to be a request to place a 2050 bronze plaque, and also the exhibit, the American Revolution exhibit. So, Nancy.
Hello, I'm Nancy Black, Wolfeboro resident. I'm here as regent of the Winnipesaukee chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, with some of my chapter members. And I'm here to ask to present a few ideas to you and get your input. The first thing we would like to do is to place a little free library on Wolfeboro town property. I've talked with Parks and Rec Director Christine Collins, and she was supportive of this idea and felt that the Fossfield Pavilion would be an excellent spot to put it. There's a lot of activity there with children at the playground, and also in the summer the Park and Rec kids are there. Great spot. We would provide the library. Literacy has been a initiative of DAR for the last several years, and our state regent has raised funds to pay for these, and her goal was to put one in each of the chapters in New Hampshire, and there's 25 chapters, and we've yet to put ours. We do have some in town already, but we thought that would be a good location. So we would place it with Christine and also maintain it. Put books in there from time to time.
I have one question. Are you going to keep it there year-round, or is this going to
We'll talk with Christine about that. Possibly in the winter, we may not.
Okay.
But definitely in the good weather months when the playground and the Park and Rec facilities are used a lot is what we would like to do. And also, we would check on it periodically to make sure that appropriate things are in there and get replaced or removed.
Nice.
Linda?
Board members? Yep.
And will you be maintaining it when it needs paint and this and that and the other thing? Okay, so.
Yeah, and I believe these are made out of materials that are very weather resistant.
Excellent.
More like the Trex material. So it doesn't, it's not like wood that you have to paint every couple of years.
We have one on Cow Island.
Yes.
That everybody walks on the trails, and you can stop, take out a book, take out a CD or a
Take one, leave
DVD,
one.
and swap them
Yeah.
out.
Gets a book.
And we're actually thinking of, I believe, Christine and I have to walk around that area a little bit, but we think it's going to be actually under the pavilion to make it a little bit more weather protected.
Yep.
And there's some pictures in your book.
Yep.
We haven't picked one out yet, but we can customize it to match whatever she thinks is appropriate.
Any other questions from board members? Shall we take this one at a time? Does somebody want to
think
make a
so.
motion?
I'll make a motion to, for a permit to have the DAR place the little free library on Wolfeboro town property in conversations with Christine from Parks and Rec down at the Fossfield Pavilion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Brian, I hear that from you.
Yep.
So I have a motion from Brad, second by Brian. Any further discussion?
Yes. One last thing. I want to commend you for going to the proper department, talking to them, and then coming to the Board of Selectmen to use town property for a very, very noble cause.
Thank you. Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next one.
Okay, I have a little something for all of you first.
Bingo cards.
Thanks.
We get these library
It
cards?
says, get out of jail free. What was that?
No, I want you to learn a new word. In less than 2 years, from now, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the 13 colonies signing the Declaration of Independence and our independence from Britain. And it has a special word, semi-quincentennial. And I think we were all here for the bicentennial, maybe not you, but bicentennial is a much easier word to say, but that is
Wow.
the fancy word for this coming up. And the National DAR has designed a marker that will become sources of pride for communities to celebrate the brave patriots who founded our nation. And it's also a reminder of the importance of emulating their convictions, courage, and cooperation towards national unity. And you have a picture in your packet of the monument, of the plaque, excuse me, and the wording is there. And we were hoping to put this somewhere in Wolfeboro. And most of our markers are up at Pickering Corner, the different war markers, and it seems like that would be an ideal place to put it, but I certainly understand that that whole area is in a bit of a flux right now. And, but at some point, the chapter would like to buy one of these markers and install it in an appropriate place. And that would probably be our first spot that we would like it, but we understand that ideally it would be lovely to put it up for 2026 for the 250th, but I know that we can't guarantee that what's going to happen up there. Mm-hmm. But I guess I just want your feeling about this marker. I think it's very important to celebrate the anniversary of our country and the patriots that gave us our freedom. And we don't have a marker like that in town.
I would love to see it up at Pickering Corner or by the front door of the town hall.
It's another possibility.
Madam Chairman. Well, no.
But we're open to ask where and when.
So, Nancy, is this going to be would this be flat on the ground, or be on some type of an angle or vertical, or?
Well, if it's by the town hall, it could be on the wall. Up at the monument, it would be on some type of a stone.
Yeah.
We'd rather not do a flat one. They're really hard to maintain, and they get the weather and dirty.
You know, my feeling is if we put it up there with all the other war markers, that we could okay it being there and then have it permanently placed once we decide where all the markers were going to go. It seems like that's where all our war markers are, and it would make sense to me that we put it up there, and maybe we can do some temporary spot in 2026 up there to celebrate.
I think this is a great idea. I have no idea where you should put it. I have some thoughts that somewhere in this town there must have been a defining moment around that season of the year when we were telling the British to pack it up and head out of Dodge. And it might, and I don't know whether Heritage Commission weighs in on this or could give you some thoughts. My visceral reaction would be, we have a gathering place on Railroad Avenue. John Sims, I think, has done a pretty spiffy job buffing up that building, which it's not part of the, I can't even pronounce that word, just forget it.
Let's call it
But
America
I would
250
just
celebration.
encourage a thought that says, is there a place in our town where something definitive occurred that either know or we don't know? And maybe some people could weigh in on that.
Patriots came from this town. We have
Right.
quite a few buried here, but we didn't have any particular battles or
Yeah.
anything.
Now,
up here.
now the answer could be, let's put it out on 109, as far away from town as possible. That might be an option. But I would just encourage us to think about people who come to visit our town. They're coming here because they want to have an experience. We don't want them to coming here to, just drink. We want them to know that we celebrate this past. And so that's about all I can offer.
Yeah,
But
that's fine.
I'd pitch it over, maybe drop a call on the Heritage team, and
I'd be happy to meet with them and
just see what comes
brainstorm.
out of it. Shake that tree and see if something falls out. Good
No,
job. Thank
there's
you.
no hurry. We've raised the money for it.
Cool.
We haven't purchased it yet. Each year we wait, the price goes up, unfortunately, but we have some time.
So, Board, are we saying we would like them to hunt around and come back with some options of places?
Second.
That's fine.
Didn't know I was making a motion. Okay,
Thank
how
you.
does other members feel about that? Does that make sense? Brad?
I was just thinking, I'm kind of wondering if Nancy's kind of looking for a consensus that this is a good idea to proceed further
Yeah,
with it, knowing that you've got to come back when the time comes for placement of it.
I would
That
love to
time-
have your approval for us to purchase it, and then we later can come back to talk about where to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Cape
where I'm
Park would be
leaning on
nice
it.
too.
Yeah.
Any other
Side of the
comments?
gas station.
So I'd be happy to meet with the
Right, so-
Heritage Commission and even Christine from Parks and Rec, and just get some ideas.
What I hear the board saying is we need a motion to approve the DRA for placing this plaque somewheres in town, and that they should look around and come back with some placements to the board.
Second.
That's kind of what
If
I'm.
people can make it, I just was kind of summarizing. One of you guys make a motion.
Did you have a motion on the floor already, or?
I just made a comment, and then he said
He
second.
seconded your
I
comment.
didn't really call for a motion. I'm calling for a motion. How about that?
I'll make a motion to approve for the purchase for the eventual placement of a Revolutionary War Patriots plaque by the Wentworth chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution to be placed somewhere in town, and that when the time comes for the placement, that they would come back to the board and we would discuss and come up with the location for it to go.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Brad, second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more.
One
Nancy.
more. Going along with this America 250 and the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the National DAR and the American Battlefield Trust have collaborated to produce a great exhibition that captures both the spirit of both of those organizations and showing long-lasting connections to the people and places, and inevitably linked to our war for independence. And we applied, and we were approved to have this traveling display for 13 days in May of 2025, May 10th to May 23rd. And we were hoping to have it placed here in the Great Hall. It consists of 12 panels, and it wouldn't impede any meetings. It could go along the outside, or they can be moved. And I don't know if your package shows some of the pictures, but it's just a great exhibition. It would be free to the public, and my DAR chapter members would act as docents whenever we were
Nice.
open. And we can determine the hours. I think it'd be great in the day, especially to have some school children come through. But also, I think I would love to be open on maybe a Saturday and maybe an evening or two to have the general public be able to come. So I'm asking permission to...
Board members, anybody have any questions or concerns?
I think there's going to be a lot of moving pieces to this because if they're going to be here Saturday, they have to have someone open and close the building for them. And there are meetings that are scheduled that we don't know when they're going to be until the beginning of May. So they're going to have to be very flexible about allowing, the general public in, walking around and talking and looking at this.
Absolutely.
At those times. So as long as we can put all the pieces together, I have no problem with it. I think it's a great idea.
And I think a lot of it can go along the walls. That wouldn't impede any of the meeting space. And we could also move things as needed. It's all flexible.
I would think at this point we'd put it on the calendar for May 9th through the 16th, so
Lock it in.
everybody knows that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
In terms of late hours, Saturday, we nonprofit, somebody who rents the room can get a key. I don't see any issue with us handling that. I think it would be a exciting exhibit to have here.
Yep.
And we are, as far as I know, we're the only town in New Hampshire that will have this. It's going all around the country.
Cool.
Very neat. Okay, board members, anybody else have
That's
any
cool.
questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to support the American Battlefield Trust and the Daughters of the American Revolution Wolfeboro chapter to honor our country's 250th anniversary celebration by having the Great Hall have an exhibition from DAR, a traveling exhibit for a tour of our battlefields during the Revolutionary War, May 9th through May 16th, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Paul, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. The request form will go to Amy.
Yes, I would go everything through Amy and ask her to get it on the calendar.
I
And
think she
she's
already
real
has,
good
but
about
thank you.
doing that stuff.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty, we need to move back to C, and this is the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Waste Facility. And I have a memo here from Jim that I'll read, and Ryan from Alton has come. On Wednesday, August 16th, 2024, at 10 a.m., the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen attended a site visit of the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Product Facility. The purpose of this site visit was as follows: determine if the Laner Street sewer pump station is required to be moved, and to make site observations regarding the proposed roof structure. During the site visit, it was determined that the contractor can build the structure without needing to relocate the pump station, which was fantastic to find out. Discussion about the structure took place upon contract with the vendor being approved. The site coordinator will move forward with the building permit, and the building permit process will be determine the need for a planning or zoning courtesy presentation. The structure will have engineered trestle roof system. Foundation and footing shall be engineered to accept the engineered trestle roof system. Upon the Wolfeboro Town Manager receiving contract for the building, it will be received by the Wolfeboro attorney to ensure that there are no concerns. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen, under the provision of the procurement policy, have authority to waive the competitive bid process. And I can read that later. We have here the town administrator from Alton, Ryan Heath, and you're going to give us some background information about the contract and some of the contracts you've looked at and what kind of a process you've gone through the Household Hazard Waste Board before we talk about waiving a bid process.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you again for letting me speak this evening, and I do apologize that I was juggling 2 meetings tonight. So thank you for accommodating that. Just for the record, I am Ryan Heath. I'm the town administrator in Alton. I'm also the chair of the Joint Lakes Region Household Hazardous Waste Committee. So I'm here. Unfortunately, Sarah is away and was not able to join us. She did provide, I'm not sure, were you folks given a copy of her breakdown?
Yes, that should have been mailed out, emailed. Everybody should have received her list of contractors, but you might want to review a little bit of it for the audience.
Sure. So this process began back in March of 2014, actually before I became involved in this. So at this point in time, Sarah Silk, the facility manager, she had prepared this timeline. And basically, at that time, she was meeting with Russ Bailey, who was our then town administrator, on inquiring about different roof systems. There was a lot of conversations, but in 2020 is when they first started with vendors. They had some meetings with Seacoast Crane. Seacoast Crane was, they were originally speccing out a completely metal roof system with metal beams for supports. The first price that they had gotten, hold on one second, let me, from them, oh, I apologize, here. Seacoast Crane, their first one down in September 21, they came back with $79,800 plus $1,500 for a PE stamped foundation design and drawings for a total of $81,300. May of 22, Seacoast Crane came back and they had price changes due to COVID and the building, or the Crescent Steel. They went up to $92,500 plus $1,500 for the PE stamp drawings. Obviously, at that point in time, the board had been putting away money for this project, but had nowhere near that amount of funds at that point in time. I got involved shortly after the end of 2021-22 is when I took over as town administrator in Alton. I got involved and we started speaking about different types of roof systems, not necessarily stuck on an all-metal structure. So we started exploring truss-style roofs, a combination of steel beam supports and stick framing, conventional. We ended up with a quote from Triple Construction. They came in at $132,815 for a base bid. They had another alternative for an additional overhang for the survey takers at the collection site. That was another $15,316. They had another option that was added on, but basically to be focused for apples to apples, their base price was the $132,815. Then we had another contractor come out, T. McDonald Building and Contractors out of Alton as well. They took measurements and talked about putting a proposal together, but found that they were not going to be able to complete the project, so they did not submit a quote. I did do some personal inquiries with Middleton Lumber on the truss system and what engineered trusses would look like cost-wise. They came back at that point in time in early 2024, gave me an estimate of $9,000 on the trusses. I actually had those designs in my hand when we were doing the site walk. That price is outdated, but that gave us a good idea that the truss system was the most economical to pursue. So at that point, we also contacted Eastway Contracting Group. They priced out a truss system as well with asphalt singles, and they came back at $127,476.13. Then in July of 2024, Matthew J. Ryan Builders, LLC, we had them come out. They again priced a truss system, engineered trusses on 8x8 supports and a support frame system that will replace the fence posts with the 8x8 supports on engineered footings, and then carry the load of the engineered trusses. It included a vinyl siding on the gable ends and a vinyl soffit underneath. They came in at $59,000 for that. The joint board, after looking at all of this, the joint board had met. We looked at what we had collected for information over a long period of time, and the $59,000 quote for the system was by far the most reasonable and economical approach. The other thing that obviously the board took into consideration is this particular builder has built 3 different projects in Alton in the last year and a half. We've been very successful with those projects, one being our entire recycling center that was destroyed in a storm. They built that building along with our public works director, overseeing that project, and he's very pleased with what happened. Most recently, this contractor also renovated and rebuilt the entire 3rd floor of the town hall, which was a very successful project as well. So based on the reputation and on recent projects and the price, the joint board had voted to expend $62,000 not to exceed $62,000, giving a little bit of a grace over the 59 in case there was any incidental costs. So that's where I am today, here in front of you. Hopefully, sort of painting a picture without Sarah here as to the due diligence that's been done on part of the members of the board, mainly Sarah and I, searching out, trying to find, like I said, the most economical way to get this project done. Just to put this out here more for the public, I know it's been said to the board, but the importance of this roof system is basically a recommendation from DES. Having a hazardous waste facility, doing open collections, rain or shine, what ends up happening is it causes a lot of spills. When rain comes down heavy, the drums are exposed. When we're transferring liquids from one container to another, it puts the spills at risk. And then, of course, the rainwater or stormwater will push it out away from the pad into the gravel surfaces, into the ground. So it was highly recommended through DES that we start searching out and try to find a way to cover this facility.
And my understanding is the joint board has a 62,000.
Yes, we do.
There's
Yep. The funds have already been raised, a combination of both towns.
So the town doesn't have to appropriate any other money. So this is, under the provisions of the procurement policy, we have the authority to waive competitive bid process for the following reasons. In case of emergency or justifiable special circumstances that require timely procurement of goods or services, when there is only one source of supply or service, when the service or products are received through the state or other joint bid process. To me, I think you've given us clear examples that they have looked at multiple options and bids up until this time. So board members, how would you like to move forward? Brian?
So I just want to clarify, just for the public, because even when I first started hearing about the project, it was a little confusing. Because they talk about roof structure, and then they talk about metal roof, and then they talk about truss roof and the whole bit. So if I'm correct, and tell me if I'm correct, this is a wooden structure that is only a roof, no walls, on posts. And originally it was going to be all metal, but that was too expensive. So now we're going to wood trusses that will have asphalt shingles on top of it. So when people think of a roof, they think somebody's just putting shingles on something. We're building a whole standalone structure without walls, correct?
Correct, sir. Yes, it's yes, completely framed.
And the only upgrade that we could do is there was a talk about we have asphalt shingles on top of this roof structure, and there could be a snow load, and it's not a very steep pitch roof, and we were trying to decide who would be responsible to make sure the snow gets off of it so we don't have it compromised. And I saw that you did a real nice job going to look to see what it would cost to have metal panels used instead of asphalt shingles on this roof structure, and it was a $10,000 upgrade in cost.
Yes, and that 10,000 included the increase in labor and materials, so that
Okay.
would be all inclusive for 10,000.
So I do throw it back to Steve and to Solid Waste and to the rest of the board. Is $10,000 worth it to keep the roof clean on its own, or is it something that we can maintain by removing snow whenever there's a large snow load on it?
My understanding from the discussion on site that we will not clear the roof. That will be done by the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Waste Group, that the town's job will be to inform them that the load is there. It's no expense to the town. That's all going to be behind. This is a intermunicipal agreement. If we can decide not to go forward with it, it will go back to their board.
Yep.
On how they want to come forward.
And
it's
so-
not this board's decision to say, you have to put that on.
Correct. My question for them would be, over a 10-year period, is the $10,000 metal roof going to pay for itself if you're spending $1,000 a year shoveling it?
Oh, there's no doubt, to be honest with you, if we had the money, we would expend it. I guarantee the board would agree on that. We were prepared. I had a conversation with the board before we adjourned because we knew that Sarah was going to be unavailable. We had a discussion about an acceptable dollar amount based on what we had. I mean, we were fully prepared to pay $5,000 or $6,000. It's just what we have that has been collected, over the years between both municipalities, tops out right now at about $66,000. So, it's a matter of where do we allocate that additional $4,000 from. So
$4,000.
So your board vote was to stay with the proposal?
Yes, well, we didn't take a board vote because we didn't meet again. What I had their authority before we convened that day of the site walk, because we were having a board meeting right afterwards at that time. They gave me the authority to go up to. Yeah, and the $10,000 brought it to 69. So I couldn't make that choice to exceed that. Plus, I know that based on our treasury reports and financials that we don't have that money set aside.
Okay, and my understanding, the contractor is ready to work after the last the hazardous waste collection in October, which is the third Saturday of that month.
Yes.
Am I correct?
That's all set. And I did today, this afternoon, forward a copy of the contract to Jim for his and council's review too. So he has that now.
Boardman, Brad.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this all back to us again, Ryan.
Sure, thank you.
The discussion between metal and shingle roof there on a roof of this style and the pitch on it and stuff, the fact that it's almost not going to be heated because there's no sides on it at all either. So I think it's very possible that even with a metal roof on there, you're going to have snow load on that roof. It's not going to be sliding off all the time. You might get some weather conditions that it could slide off, but there's no guarantee that that's the case. And I think the fact that, the discussion we did talk about, you just mentioned there, that the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Facility Group will be in charge of needing to maintain the snow loads on the roof, and we did agree that we'd have our staff who's down there often enough to visit it to inform them of when there is a snow load that you probably want to take a look at it and, get it cleaned off and stuff. So I'm very comfortable with that, letting them, having them make the decision on, because they're the ones that are funding it, of what they have for money to spend and they have the funds to go ahead with the shingled roof. So I'm very comfortable with that. I also am very comfortable with the fact that they've done their homework on the pricing of this out. They've talked to multiple firms, gotten some different ideas. We talked about it. It's kind of a design build type process. So you're not going to get apples to apples there, as Ryan mentioned there. So I think they've done a very good job vetting this all out and have come up with a good proposal for what the needs are up there. So I'd be in favor of the support of that first motion anyway for waiving the procurement policy for the competitive bid process there.
Is that a motion?
Steve, do you have any comments? You were there with us, or your staff is going to have to notify him, so I just think it might be nice if you weigh in.
For me, and I agree with these guys, at a 6-pitch, metal or shingles, it's not really going to slide much. So the fact that you're going to have to shovel it anyway, for your money-wise, that makes sense to me. We are more than happy we haul our snow in there, we're going to go in there, more than happy to shoot the email, hey, the roof looks a little iffy, you want to come down and have a look at it. So all of that stuff, from my perspective, we're good with.
Sounds good.
Any other board members have any questions, concerns? Before I ask for a motion, I think we all have this. Does somebody want to make one of the two motions?
Move that the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen waive the competitive bid process for this project, which is defined as the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Products Facility located at the town's, what do we want to call it, Steve?
I would call it the solid waste facility.
At the solid waste facility.
Do I have a second? Brian? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody want to make the next motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the Wolfeboro Town Manager to sign any building permit application contract documents related to this project.
Second.
Okay, we have Brad and Paul. And we know he has said that we will have town attorney look at any agreement beforehand. That's it.
And if I could. And just for the benefit of the public, I mean, this facility is located on town property. And we want to make sure, and they agree, that we have to go through a permitting process. And DES is in agreement that we have to do all of those things. So, we're saying, Jim, you got our hand in agreement to go ahead and do what you have to do. Relative to the motion we just passed before, it's pretty obvious that they've done their diligence. They've gone back and forth and trying to get prices. And so Jim, to his credit, mentioned that we had to waive this agreement, this competitive bid process. And so in his absence, I give him credit for coming up with that idea. So I know that I'm on the first motion, but I support the second one as well.
Okay, I have a motion by Brad, a second by Paul. Anybody else have any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Thanks,
Opposed?
Ryan.
Linda, I got one other quick thing. Just want to let people know that last night at the planning board, Sarah did come to the planning board meeting, kind of an informal, quick overview of the project with the planning board. And it was kind of left there that they would be bringing it back on the second meeting in September, which would be the 17th, for I guess we call it courtesy type.
Like a site review.
Site plan, yes. Kind of a site review was, just the courtesy version of it, not necessary, but it's to bring everybody up to speed. We felt we'd have the plans by that time, and stuff there. So there was mention that, well, depending on the Board of Selectmen's meeting tonight, whether we'd require it or not, I think we all still have the same thought that we strongly support that process, that policy that we have for town projects go through, the courtesy review of the planning board. So that was talked about last night, and she agreed she'd be back for her vacation and be able to come on the 17th. So
that's moving forward.
that's moving forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for coming and explaining this to us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening yourself.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Abenaki Outing Club has proposed a MOU, and they have a presentation for us tonight.
So the Abenaki Outing Club has had 2 brief meetings with the town manager on this topic. Town managers suggest that the Board of Selectmen appoint 2 Board of Selectmen members to discuss the path forward with Abenaki Club. And I've got...
Is this the same that you gave us?
Do you have copies of it?
Yeah.
Awesome. We did make some copies in case
Okay,
you did not
public
have
can
them.
see it, that's
but
why I'll
perfect, thank you.
keep on looking forward.
Great. So I'm Scott Martino. I'm the executive director of the Abenaki Outing Club. My first year was last season, so I represent the growth of the organization, and it's our first time having a real full-time employee, and this is my life right now, dedicating myself to bringing more programs to the community here. So with that,
We're working.
We're not
having
working.
some tech.
Turn on the moon.
There,
1 second.
did we get it to work?
Yep.
Except we don't have
Oh.
it up yet. We're having problems.
It's fine.
already.
Technology.
Don't you love it?
Yes.
You have to find somebody under 30 if you want to get this thing to work.
Yeah.
That's the way. It's at least been my experience
That's a
anyway.
whole bunch of us out.
And I think you probably all know Annie, right? I mean, I think she's a fixture in the town, so. All right.
Set.
Want to pop to the next slide? Is somebody going to cue that,
Like
or
he's
I
got the
gotta?
thing with him
Or he's going to
coming
give
down.
me a clicker?
Steve's coming.
Steve's coming with the pickles.
All right, so what's the over-under on? I messed this up. There we go. Thank you. All right, so our goals in approaching them were to try to find some ways for us to better utilize the ski area by setting some common goals. We've sort of been de facto the programming people for the ski area on youth programs. And, you know, the town has really been the one that's operationally running the ski area. And so finding a way for us to work together to develop more comprehensive programs for the youth in the area, to optimize the ski area, to build on the success that we've had, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that success, and align our programs around some mutual goals. And to preserve the infrastructure investment that's been made at the ski area. There's been significant, you know, investments there by the Friends of Abenaki. I think Steve Reinfurt, who's a volunteer ski patroller there, probably summed up best how we think of the ski area as the outing club. And that's where you can drop your kid off when they're 5 years old and you pick them up when they're 17. And the kids really do have the run of the area, you know? And I've had some experience at some other smaller ski areas, and I look at Abenaki and I think of, it's not really a ski area, it's a learn to ski area. It's where you bring your kids to learn to ski and where you grow the sport of skiing and serve the community in that way. These small hills can really be tremendous assets to the community, and this hill certainly has a lot going for it in that area. You all know who the Friends of Abenaki are, and they've made some significant investments in there, including snow guns, you know, lighting, rope tow pulleys, lodge partnership. There's been a lot of investment that's made there to keep skiing in that area safe and affordable. And that's sort of what we've sort of adopted, that mantra of keeping skiing in that area safe and affordable, because we feel like it's a better way to serve the community with the programs that we offer. So our mission is to foster lifelong skills in skiing, passion for the sport in young skiers. We do this through our programs that we offer. We offer a freestyle, a Nordic program, which was new last year, a Learn to Ski program, and recreational and competitive alpine skiing programs. We want to do this by providing a safe and affordable skiing environment for all. We do that through subsidizing any and all skier who require support, and we do that through fundraising in the community. So our programs, as I said, freestyle, alpine race, Nordic, and Learn to Ski. Our freestyle recreational program, they train one night a week, We are fortunate to have a professional coaching staff for that. A gentleman from Waterville Valley Academy comes down. I mean, he gets paid a little bit, but he essentially is volunteering his time, and he brings 4 or 5 other coaches with him. So the quality of the program, in terms of the instructions the kids are getting, is very high, very, very high. Last year, we participated in what was called the Small Mountain Series. So these kids not only did it recreationally, but also had an opportunity to compete. And through Rob Dresser, who is our coach from Waterville Valley, through his connections with other ski areas in the area and other freestyle coaches, he put this Small Mountain Series together. The Kank up in Lincoln, we hosted an event at Abenaki, and Whaleback hosted an event. There were prizes for the kids. It was very, very well received, and I think next year there'll be additional ski areas that'll want to participate in that program. So while this isn't a sanctioned program, it's more of a recreational program, this addition of the Small Mountain Series was a real, I think a real benefit to the children, got an opportunity to go other places and see how other kids are doing freestyle. So it's a great opportunity for them. And our Alpine Race program, and this is probably our most formal program, and because of just the requirements that are placed on us by the United States Ski and Snowboard Association to run these races, there's an awful lot of infrastructure and expense that has to go into conducting these races. So this is our most professional program. We train 2 nights a week and Saturday mornings. Some kids participate at a recreational level, so I mean, you can decide to race or not race, but you can still train. And we have a number of kids in the program that train but do not race. We have a coaching staff. It's a mix of paid volunteers, but we're all USSA certified. And we held 2 races last year at Abenaki. The Chewy Slalom was one of them, and which was named after Peter Holland, who was instrumental in helping the program get started, and a divisional qualifier with NARA. So that was kind of a big race for us because previously Gunstock had been holding that race, and we put a bid in to collect that race, and I think it's probably ours for the rest of as long as we want it. We just have a perfect venue to hold that race, and I think feedback we got from NARA last year was very positive on that race. So I think that's one we can keep as long as we want. Our Learn to Ski program, we focus this on children under 8 years old. And the idea here, again, is to feed our Alpine Race and our freestyle program with new kids. I mean, these programs are such that you want a very broad base at the younger level because you have a lot of kids that sort of drop out as things go on, have other interests, or find it's not for them. So the broader the base you have, the more success you have at the older kids level. So this is really to foster a passion in skiing. We train on Saturday mornings here. The coaching staff are experienced volunteers from Pat's Peak. There's ski school there. They come up and help us, along with some other volunteers from the community. Our Nordic program started last year. We sort of took this over from the Wolfeboro Nordic Ski Association, who had this program sort of phased out during COVID. And last year we tried to resurrect it. We had 6 kids in the program where we really would like to build this to more like 25 children to participate in this. And we'll work hard this fall recruiting in the schools to see if we can find some kids who are runners that might like to join us and try to stay in shape in the winter. They train 1 night a week and Saturday mornings. The coaching staff is certified by USSA and NENSA, which is the New England Nordic Ski Association. And they competed last year in the Bill Koch League, and they went to the Bill Koch Festival, which was in Vermont, and actually placed very well. So Jim Hayford, who lives in, where's Jim from? Tuftonboro, and he's a terrific coach and has helped the kids a lot, and so they did a very good job last year on that one. We hope to grow that program some more. You know, what does it take to run the outing club, and what kind of training do these folks need? You know, we're a fairly experienced group. So we're certified at USSA and the Professional Ski Instructors Association. As a result of that, we have to pass background checks. We're all Safe Sports trained and certified, as are our board members, because that's a requirement that USSA has. So Our venue, our hills are USSA homologated, which means they're approved for racing, and which means there's a safety protocol that has to be followed whenever you hold a race, certain amount of fencing, netting, crowd control, that sort of thing is all in the homologations. USSA coach, well, it's me. I set the hill prep most of the time. And we maintain all of that netting. So when you see it on the hill, we're maintaining that weekly because it has to be in a certain condition in order to be safe, essentially, for the kids. So we comply with all the safety standards that USSA puts on us to make sure that we're offering a safe venue for kids to train. In 2023-2024 season, we had 133 local children in our program. 71% of them were from the Wolfeboro community serviced by Parks and Rec. 97% of them are year-round residents in the Wolfeboro area. We do this because we would rather not see kids at home on their phones or on Xbox. We think that, and studies prove this, that any kind of sports participation, being outside, improves mental health, physical fitness, aids in socialization. And, as a result of the makeup of our members, we really are the public at that ski area. We represent the local community. Our kids are from the community, and they're using a community asset. And again, we want to make sure that this outlet is affordable, it's safe for those children to participate. Our freestyle program, it really resumed growth post-COVID this year. We had a pretty strong program. In 2011, we added the race program, and that really was through discussions with the former recreation program director. His encouragement for us to, Annie, basically, to really start a program for kids to do alpine ski racing, to use that asset that's sitting there that the town has invested and the Friends of Abenaki invested in so much in. We added the Learn to Ski program in 2020. We serviced about 28 kids last year and Learn to Ski. And, I think we could certainly do more in that area. And the Nordic program last year, and that was the reintroduction of that Wolfeboro Nordic Association program. So you can see we're a little lean during those COVID years, but our growth has been pretty dramatic. And we continue to get inquiries from the community for additional programming. So not only do we offer a great environment for any kid to participate, but we've also been quite successful in that. We've had a number of our kids do very, very well at the state level, certainly at the divisional level. I'll tell you, we were at the giant slalom at Crotchet Mountain for the last qualifier for the Central Division, and we swept the podium. So we have some very, very good skiers. And those skiers are going to be the skiers that are going to compete at the school and the high school level later on. And I think we won the middle school championship this year as a result of a lot of the kids that ski at Abenaki being and going to the local schools. So we try to keep our costs very affordable. We have one full-time staff, that's me. Our coaches are on seasonal contracts. And we rely on volunteer coaches to help us with that flex capacity and fill our staffing needs. We're always cost conscious, we have to be. And we raise money in the community through business sponsorships and a number of people giving us annual donations. Last year, we provided 58 children with some sort of financial assistance. 2 of them were on full scholarship, meaning we took care of all of their expenses, including race fees and equipment. And 10 children received full sets of equipment from us. So we have a full complement of equipment that's either been donated to us or we've purchased to allow children who don't have the means to purchase the equipment to be able to come to us and we can outfit them. So we believe really that everybody who wants to ski should have access to it, and we've set ourselves up to be able to do that. If you look at us from a financial standpoint, I think this is kind of an interesting chart because it really shows how important community support and fundraising is to our existence as an outing club. You know, we brought in $98,000 last year. Our total expenses were over $100,000. Our scholarship expenses were $25,000. So without fundraising, we would be $27,000 in the red. But through the generosity of the community, we raised $58,000 last year. So we have a net surplus of about $30,000. And ultimately, I think financially, that's where we'd like to be, because it gives us the buffer. If we have a bad winter or we don't have the registrations that we think we should have, we have enough to continue to sustain ourselves through that and be able to have programming next season. So we're in pretty good financial shape. We recently were awarded a $15,000 grant from the Killington World Cup Foundation, which was for additional programming, and we'll talk about infrastructure, but some of it's for infrastructure. So that was a great award. We're really happy to receive that. Proud that they put their trust in us. What we do in terms of rentals, so when we're on the hill and it's not open to the public, we're paying for the incremental costs above and beyond to operate the facility during those times. So we call that facility rental. So last year we paid $13,000 in facility rentals. During events, we have another rate that we have to pay during events. We paid $6,000 in event fees. Our season pass sales are about almost $21,000. So about $40,000 the club pays back to the town in those fees and those ticket sales. This is the community that supports us: Bradley's, Keller Williams, Meredith Savings Bank, Camp Belknap, Kevin Lawler, and a number of other individuals who would prefer to remain anonymous, but their donations certainly go a long way to helping kids participate in these programs. You know, our goal in the future is, we're at about 130 kids. We'd love to be over 200 kids and servicing more kids in the community. We want to expand our Nordic participation. I say we want to hold 3 races. Well, that's a reality already, because NARA awarded us another race next year for U10s, and we're pretty happy about that. We want to work on developing coaches from the pool of kids that work with us as racers, find those kids who want to come back and give back as a coach later on, maybe in their high school years, to help us grow our program as well. We want to bring more freestyle competition to Abenaki. We have, again, just a perfect venue for those sorts of things. Spectator area is excellent. Rope tow makes things really quick. Teams love to come there. Looking at other ways we can serve the community and offering Learn to Ski programs after school or preschool kids, learning programs during the week. Enhance the Winter Carnival some more. We used to do an Abenaki Fun Day. We couldn't do it last year due to closure of the hill, but combining those 2 events together to try to bring more excitement to the Winter Carnival is an idea that we have. And then continue to develop a relationship really with the middle school and the high school teams to get them to use the facility for training. I really think that it's an excellent opportunity for them to use that facility, and we have the expertise to help them make sure that's safe. We think that a partnership with the town has that potential to enrich what Abenaki already offers to the community. So our goals sort of philanthropically are to continue to raise funds. Nobody should be left out of participation in these events or this because it's financially out of reach for the family. We're looking at the possibility of expanding needs-based scholarships along with some merit scholarships as well, because success in a program, continued success depends on having kids return, and we want to make sure that those good skiers are coming back and showing the younger kids what it takes to be successful. Our capital improvements, I talked about the grant from the Killington World Cup Foundation. One of the specific requests in that grant was to fund the building of a timing shack at the bottom of Twister. I know it's the desire of the town that we or at least it's been expressed to me, the desire of the town is to have us hold races on Twister as much as possible, and we'd like to do that as well. We have a few infrastructure pieces that need to fall into place in order for that to happen. One is a timing build, and the second is additional timing wires from where we can set up timing lights to run those races. And those are things that are, with this grant, I think are within reach for us now. Also, I think from a freestyle standpoint, some beginner elements and some other boxes our coaches are asking for. Some of our stuff is kind of advanced for the kids that we're trying to instruct, and it'd be nice to have some smaller elements to have them progress off of those. I think over time we'd like to add a head coach. I mean, I have a lot of responsibilities as a program director, including running the coaching staff, and sometimes that would help to have an additional head coach. You know, an additional Nordic coach if we can grow that program, ski school personnel, and probably a part-time administrator as we go along. So those are some expenses that will incur if we continue to grow the program. We want to get more kids outside in winter. That's what we want to do. Our commitment is to expand participation, offer the coaching, the programming, the equipment, the safe environment, and whatever financial assistance is required. If we have the money and the town needs money for snowmaking in order for the place to get up and running, we're more than happy to offer those funds if it helps provide an environment where that helps our programs deliver on the value that we've sold the parents on those programs. You know, we want to work together on slope time, target opening and closing dates. Last year was a tough winter, but I think that we probably could have kept the place open longer had we maybe planned for that. So in working with the town, can we get together a snowmaking plan early in the year so that we can understand, hey, when we're going to open, what's our target closing date? Are we doing what's necessary to make sure that we can span the entire season without running out of snow? Are we stockpiling snow at the top so we can push it out when the weather goes bad and we don't have the ability to make snow? Are we making snow early enough and often enough? I mean, I think with the way the climate has been over the last several years, January tends to be a warm early January, right? And sometimes you only get opportunity to make snow late November, early December, and then it gets warm again. So how do we take advantage of what cycles are available to us to actually get some snow on the hill and push that out so that we can begin to offer programs? Grooming, well, I think we made a major step in grooming by getting the new groomer. That's outstanding because we spent a lot of time last year with duct tape and chewing gum trying to keep that thing running. And they did a great job doing it, but it really was quite a challenge at times. Personnel to maintain and build the terrain park. Last year I was out there with a shovel, you know, the night before our first training for me and Rob Dresser from Waterville Valley, digging holes and throwing in rails because we didn't have anything in the ground and we were supposed to start practice on January 1. So how do we work together to make sure that if we're offering programming, that those things are in place so that we can successfully execute that programming? So the memorandum of understanding that we proposed, and I think Jim's read through it, and obviously it's open to comment and revision as you see fit, but I think it gives us some guardrails on how we work together and puts that in writing so we know how each other is going to support one another in this vision of bringing more programs to children in the community. So that's kind of what we're here for, to tell you a little bit about ourselves and you know, offer up this memorandum of understanding on how we move forward. I think that's the last slide.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation and bringing this information to us. I think we have definitely a draft of a possible MOU. I think there's more conversations to take place.
Absolutely.
In order for us to come. You know, this community has supported Abenaki. When I came on to the Board of Selectmen, they were about ready to close it.
Yeah.
Because we were going one day and we were paying $6,000 for insurance. And it was this community said, no, were not closing, that we have what we have today. So it's a big thanks to this community and the voters of this town that has made this what it is today. So there's total support for Abenaki. We're going to have to work on how we get what you're asking for, and if we can, and to what degree. And that's a conversation that we can definitely have. Board members, Brian?
Yeah.
I absolutely love your group.
Thank you.
Financially transparent for all ages of children from 4 years old to 84 years old. The involvement, the care, it's just a fantastic group. We should have the best private-public partnership going forward possible. Just absolutely love the whole group. My sons use that slope.
Oh, yeah.
One of my sons raced all the way through middle school. Actually finished, I think, third in the state in middle school at the state championships in Nordic, but he became a runner instead.
Yeah, I mean, I've been coaching now for 22 years, and I've seen, all the way from Division I college coaching to, doing kids. So I've seen it all, and this venue is a special venue in what it offers children. And, short of going to a ski academy, I'm not sure you could get better training at this age group at Abenaki. It really is. And the coaches there are very dedicated. Yeah, it's a great community. So how do we expand it and offer it to more kids? I mean, we've got 130 now. How do we get it to 200, What programs do we need to offer to make that happen? And then, how do we have operational hours that can support that sort of stuff? That's really where we are.
Okay, I have a couple of things. One, with this, and I agree with Brian, it's just a great presentation. I think this is to the board itself. I think we may want to look at the programs that our Park and Recreation Department are running now, because I think we have gone away from some of the recreational programs, and we have groups like yours doing the cross-country, doing skiing. We've got soccer, and if I look on Facebook, I see more of like cornhole and some other types of programs being run by Park and Rec. So I think this board, we may want to sit down with Christine and take a look at, we may need to do some reshuffling on what we are looking at for Park and Rec. I agree. I think we should sit down. The town manager has suggested that we appoint 2 select board members to discuss the path forward with the Abenaki Outing Club. I will make a statement. My grandkids are recreational. They come and they just want to ski the hill. They're hockey players, soccer players. And so I think that I can bring to the discussion that voice, and then we should have somebody who is committed to skiing, and I think those would be 2 people to sit down. So I'm willing to be one of them.
I am too. I'm willing also.
Anybody else?
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
Can I speak first?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer too, so you get 3. Or maybe I can be an alternate, I guess. What's not to like about what you did? I mean, this is what our town.
Yeah.
When I think of our town, this is what we're all about. And I kind of like your presentation, because to Brian's point, it shows that you think through what you're doing, you generate revenue, you pay your bills, you have enough for the children, and you're trying to do a broad reach to people. So. And it's mission. I mean, to me, this is mission stuff. I would love to be a party to this. I read through the proposed memorandum of understanding, and my initial reaction to it is that there's nothing in there that jumps off the page that says bad idea. But then again, it's always. I've always heard that they want us to make snow earlier than we can. So that little gnawing detail is important. I agree with the chairman, and that is that, you know, if you kind of, the way I look at this, if you kind of draw a big box and you kind of put in all the program activities that Parks and Recreation does and that we offer with single track and with all of these, you know, you can have these little green things, and then maybe across the top or the bottom again, and who benefits, you know, and age groups or whatever. And I think we ought to fill that one out as a team, not try to belabor it, but I think that's a mission we ought to get about doing, so that we don't miss a beat, and we don't get into a situation where we're feeling like we're competing with each other. To me, that's dumb. It's patently dumb, because it is. So if Linda and Brian want to do this, great. I'd like to be a party to it. I'll help whatever way I can. But I think your presentation's outstanding, and I think the MOU is it's workable.
Okay.
We should be able to work on this stuff.
Linda.
Quickly.
I think workable is a good word.
Huh?
I like workable.
Now I'll tell you a last story, which is Sisyphus. Zeus determined that Sisyphus upset him and required him to push a rock to the top of a hill only to have it come down the other side. I never took up skiing until I was 60 years old, which was about 30 years ago. And my first day of skiing, I was the bunny trail at Gunstock. I fell off the magic carpet ride several times. And then Susan convinced me to come over to the hill and grab the rope tow. And I didn't know that you didn't keep going when you let go of the rope tow. So I'm going, and it was really a bad scene. It was pretty ugly, but it was fun for the children. So I cut my teeth, almost broke my leg on the hill. So I love what you guys do, and I appreciate it. So it's workable. It is workable.
Yeah, I thought that's a great
Quickly,
work, and I think
workable.
that's exactly what we'll do. We'll work on
Shouldn't take
things.
long. Workable.
So any other comments from anybody? Dave?
Just number 7, the first sentence says trial instead of trail. That's it.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah, right.
That proves I read it.
Well, thank you. And by the way, the rope tow is infamous, and it is famous and infamous, right?
Yes.
It is.
Kids come from other mountains. Like the Chewy Slalom event is really something special. If you want to watch fun, you know, real fun happening real time, just come by and watch the kids eat hot dogs, go up and down that rope tow,
Just watch
and
me.
ski race. You know, it's really something special. It really
Ski
is.
race and recreation too. I mean, you've got the races going, and you've got these little kids on the kiddie hill, and the kids who are just going over the jumps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just,
is
I
just
love
great.
going there and watching my grandkids enjoy it, and everybody that's
The Small
out.
Mountain series is fun to watch too.
Yeah.
They get the music pumping, the kids get really fired up. It's a lot of fun. So.
There's nothing like the kids watching an adult get on the rope tow and getting scared. They're like,
Yeah, the little kids get on.
they're not making it up. They don't want to get behind the adults. They're like, that adult's not making it up.
Yeah, it's a unique experience for sure. So a real treasure. Go ahead.
With the recreation, it is why, you know, because the recreation, we want to create skiers for life. Not everyone's going to continue ski racing for the rest of their lives or freestyle.
Right.
And so we have always supported that recreational side. And, you know, the winter carnival is part of how we do that. The club comes in, we run the race, we volunteer.
Hit the microphone. Scream into the microphone.
We run the ski race for the winter carnival and take care of all the timing because we're certified. It makes sense. It's, you know, safe. And then we also provide volunteer judges for the freestyle. And then we ran the Nordic program this year as well. I mean, the Nordic event for the winter carnival. So, you know, the recreation is as important. And I think Ethan Hipple, when he asked us to do that in 2011, to start that, we started with race. It was because he knew, you know, he said, we don't have the expertise to do it, but it's a natural, you know, partnership with it would be good for the mountain and for the community. So, and that's where it started. Freestyle to start.
My last thing would be, and I'm glad you said that, is I love the safety aspect that you have there. the certified coaches, the certified races, the groups that you bring in that make sure that everything is done correctly, safely, across the board. It's fantastic.
Paul?
So just for my clarity, so I think we landed on two places. One is, we need to kind of take a more robust view of the program activities in Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
That, you could put that and you could say that could take us a month of Sundays. Fine. But then we have an MOU, and that shouldn't take a month of Sundays. So we should prosecute the conclusion to this if that's deemed to be important, which I think it is, while at the same time we're trying to do a more holistic view of what we want to do for Parks and Rec. The Parks and Rec overview should not gate this activity, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, this is what's on the agenda. That was a comment I made.
Yeah, no, I agree.
By looking at Facebook, thinking about what my grandkids, one's 12 now, and what he did when he was 6. And so it just made me start to look at how I think things have changed. When his brother, two brothers were, there wasn't as much competitive sports. There was more recreation, and we've just grown and changed. And that's what parents are wanting, so I don't have any problem.
I agree with you.
But we just sometimes you need to relook at things. So this is what's on the agenda. That is my personal comment. So there are two different things here.
Right.
So I'm willing to work on it. You and Brian decide which of you two.
You spoke first.
Okay, so it'll be Brian and I. We'll sit down, we'll set a date, and get to work on this.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Righty. Next item on the agenda, this is something I put on, and I just want to kind of go back over what we voted on in May of this year in terms of the responsibility of members and the role of the chairman. And I'm not going to read through it, but I'm going to read sections of it. And it's just a reminder, and then we'll move on. One is the responsibility of the members, and number 6, members shall listen in a respectful manner when other members or the public are addressing the boards. The members shall refrain from using inappropriate or disrespectful language when addressing the public or others. And then when we come on over to, this is section 4C on page 4, and it is under the role of the chair. One of the roles of the chair is to recognize members entitled members titled the floor. After the presentation, questions accepted from the public shall be addressed through the chair after they identify themselves. And then 8, discussions which are not addressing the business before the board or which are conducted in a disorderly or disrespectful manner shall be ruled out of order. The chairman shall take whatever action is necessary to achieve and maintain order, including the removal of any person who continues disorderly conduct. And those are just some reminders of how we need to work on making sure we stay within those rules. Okay.
I have something too. Page 3, under agenda, it says,
Brian, I'm more than willing to, recognize you, but
I thought we were having a discussion on this.
yeah, but I'd like to recognize you. So, on what page?
On page 3, under B, agenda, it says, shall be published with meeting notice, including the minutes. A suggested agenda is provided below. It may be changed by the chair or the majority vote of the board at a meeting as a motion to strike or table an item. Well, we tabled one tonight, the August 7th minutes, and we didn't have a discussion on it. So we skipped that one. Then if you go to page 4, it says, only bona fide emergencies may be placed on the agenda to discuss at meetings after the agenda setting a deadline has passed. we regularly add things on after the Friday when the agenda's been in place, and we've had a couple of different agendas just for this meeting that have popped up. So we got to work on that. The other one we have to work on is the chair and the town manager shall decide if a temporary event application is complete before scheduling a public hearing on it. We had one tonight about the alcohol permit, and there was questions whether it was complete. We get a lot that aren't complete, and the chair and the town manager, we got to do a better job on that, making sure that those come to us incomplete, because we waste a lot of time on incomplete ones.
Noted, and I will work on it, as I hope all the board members will work on all those rules.
Okay.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, thanks. I tend to agree with, on both sides. I mean, there's, student body right was talking about decorum. Student body left was talking about staff work. Those are two separate discussions, and they both have merit. Decorum is important because we don't want to look dumb in front of the public, and staff work has a tendency to create confusion. And so I agree with the decorum piece, and I also agree with the staff work piece. I just think we all need to strive to get better at both. And I personally will do that. Thank you.
Well put. We all need to strive to take those rules of procedure and try to, all of us help to go forward with them. So, all right, the next item is employment vacancies, and that is I would like a motion to table.
Move to table.
Second.
Any further discussion by anybody?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All righty. Next, I would like a motion to go into non-public, go into a Libby trustees meeting.
So move.
Second.
Paul? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're into a Libby trustees meeting. What I have placed on the agenda for this is that we have the Turner proposal. We've had the report on mold, and we have closed the Libby Museum. We have a placeholder being put in the CIP, and at this point in time, we have not moved forward on exactly how we want to handle the Libby Museum. When we had a conversation, Brad asked about this Turner report, so I'd like us tonight to have a discussion and see if we can decide on a direction for moving forward with the Libby Museum. And I'll pass this over to Paul because he is their representative, and see where you would have any suggestions or where you feel we should go.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have not had a meeting with the Friends of Libby. I don't think any has been posted, so that's just to make sure we understand where things are. So, here's my thinking, and I look forward to our colleagues weighing in on this. We have a structure. We have determined that it has mold, airborne, as well as stuck up to the inside of the building. We took a vote to close the operation. One person voted no, so it was not. It was a majority, but there was one against that. We received a price to clean the inside of the Libby. We also heard from our town manager. Let me back up. I gave a presentation to all of you and showed that we had paint peeling and the battens on the back of the building were popping off, and the building had a belly probably a little bigger than mine. So we have some structural things we had to deal with. The town manager alerted us to the fact that there was actually more mold outside of the building than there is inside of the building. My response to that was a congratulatory comment to the Libby staff because they spend half of their operating budget wiping down the artifacts. We resurrected a document from a few years ago. This was somewhere a couple of years back that said it would cost about $166,000 to literally pick up the exhibits, move them out of the building. That's only half of the equation. We've got to put them back. So we have to update that. I don't think we're anywhere near coming to a decision about what to do about the Libby Museum. We need to understand whether the Libby, and this is going to sound provocative and it's not meant to be, it's just a comment. We need to understand whether the Libby building itself is beyond repair. Is the mold systemic in the structure of the building, or is it someplace else? And we've all spoken to each other here and said, we got to understand on a kind of a, I hate to use the word baby step, we got to understand on a step-by-step basis, you know, what are we getting into? Because I believe, Madam Chairman, and if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected, I believe that we are not in the business of taking a paintbrush and a bucket of paint and throwing it at the building and saying, we're going to fix it, or just wipe it down with some bleach and call it a day. I believe we need to understand what this is going to cost deeply. And then I believe we need to tee this up to the voters and say, there it is. Now, there has been some critique by some people that perhaps, we haven't done our, been doing what we should do to maintain the facility, and all of that may or may not be true. To me, that's, at this point, that's a conversation I would say, let's park that one, and let's deal with what we're dealing with, which is we have a facility on that end of town that could be, will be a mid to long-term investment that the town is going to have to either decide to make, the town's people, the taxpayers, will have to decide to make or not. And we're going to have to then deal with the trust consequences, the New Hampshire Attorney General consequences of that type of decision at a time. I've taken the liberty of, and I thank Pat Waterman for this, and I'll provide this to all of my colleagues. If you don't have it, you probably do. I asked Pat to give me everything there is to know about the Libby, the deed, the will, all of the warrant articles that were put together back in the 1950s. I have all of that, and I put that in a read later file. Because at this particular point in time, I want to know what we need to do now. And so what I think, and I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Mr. Harriman, what's in front of us is a proposal that I believe we have to have a conversation about that says we need to take the next step, which is to understand whether we have a structure that can even be repaired, or whether we have a different discussion that comes in front of us. So, hate to put you on the spot, Brad, but over to you. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Coming in your direction. Ole.
Over here now?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sent.
So, yes, so I was tasked to reach out to H.L. Turner Group to come up and update an assessment of the condition of the building. They had done a previous report back in, gosh, I can't remember the date off the top of my head now, mid to late 2000 teens anyway. We know the building has obviously deteriorated since then. So the purpose of this proposal was to come in and analyze the building, again, obviously using all the data they already have, updating it, and actually prioritizing and putting cost estimates to some of the repair projects of what needs to be done for the building. Since I had reached out to them, and we had a meeting, and they took a quick look at it they spent a couple hours up here that day. Since then, we've obviously had the mold and the lead paint inspections done, so we know what we have there to deal with. We can obviously forward all that information down to them so they have it to put into their report and stuff for information. So my opinion is that I definitely believe the building is worth saving. I think it's, you know, it's not to a point where we're worried about it falling in or anything like that. We have some deterioration going on there that needs to be looked at. We got to figure out why or where the mold is coming from, what's generating it. You know, we know moisture does it, but we need to know where it's coming from. Is it from underneath? Is it from inside the walls coming in? You know, from inside the walls out both to the outside and the inside. We need to know the extent on the exhibits that are in there, how bad they are. Some of them are probably beyond repair or cleaning. So we need to assess all these kind of things and then pick a path moving forward. And then we'd have the numbers if we need to go to the voters again. Okay, this is the conditions that we have here. These are the recommendations for repairs in a thoughtful and, you know, manner that, you know, makes sense to do them. You know, we're not going to be throwing, you know, bad money out there and then have to, you know, redo it later on for something else. There'd be a lot of thought put into the process that we'd be approaching on this. So I think, as Paul alluded to, I think this is the next step to get us to that point where we have a good understanding of what it's going to take to fix the building, to get it so we can open it again, and how we want to open it. You know, we've had conversations about, you know, putting a portion of the building into another use or something to help offset some of the costs there. So, you know, there's things we could look at there. So that's kind of my, you know, 2 cents worth of into the proposal we have here from H.L. Turner Group. I know we've been sitting on this for a little while. They provided this to us back in mid-June. And it does say it was good for 30 days. I'm sure they'd still honor that. If we did decide to move forward with this, and with other information we have available to go back to them, you know, my thought would be, if we decide to approve this, to authorize it up to that amount that they had in here. And if the information we give them saves them some work they need to do, hopefully they come in under the cost estimate they had there, which is for the public here was $25,255 to come in, analyze, and prepare the report for us and bring it back to us. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth on that, and, you know, I can answer any questions if anybody's got any other questions on that.
Dave, do you have anything to say?
No, other than, as everybody said, we need a plan. And we need a plan, we need to spend some money to do that.
Right?
So we have had Quantum, Alba, Bergeron, HEB, and now Turner look at this building. Not one time have I seen, and I might have missed it, where anybody has actually done moisture testing on the structure. It's not in this quote either. I've never seen a building envelope moisture control engineer involved in this building. They exist. Before we go forward and spend another fee for more investigation, I'd like to know who the experts are who are looking at the building. What are their credentials? Are they going to be looking at the right things? Because right now it says, we're looking at the building and we'll tell you what it's like. And this will be the 5th time that we're looking at the building, we'll tell you what it's like. Because in order to solve this problem, we do need to know, one, is it structurally repairable? Everything is structurally repairable. Two, we need to know how much does it need for repair, and we need to know how we're going to stop the moisture in the building. Those are the things that we need to find. I don't see this report addressing any of that. It's not telling us where the moisture is coming from. It's not telling us how much moisture we have in the wood, and it doesn't tell us how we're going to fix that. It's not laid out.
We did have a report in 2017 about how to address moisture in a building, so there has been looked, but that's so old now, I wouldn't. So, and I guess I would like to see us move forward with that, but I think the comment of adding to it somebody to take a look at the moisture in the building, in the wood, et cetera, do you think that's something that can be added, Brad?
Absolutely, yes. I could definitely reach out to them, bring that, request to them, have them get back to me on that, for our next meeting there. Because we also have the information, we never had the information on the mold before, which we now have. So that's going to give them the direction they need to go to get to Brian's point of, where's this coming from? Where's our moisture problem? Is it coming from the basement? Is it coming, from outside inside or vice versa? We have something else growing and happening in the walls, biological, something like that, that's causing this. So I think we have more information to give to them too at this point than we've ever had before. So.
Linda?
Yep.
Thank you. So just for clarity, I do remember we did look at moisture when I was in my first assignment here. This is not a report. This is a proposal that we're looking at right now, and I did make margin notes exactly to what my colleague here said is, and Brian's right. I mean, we can fix anything. You take a bag of cash and throw it at a building, and you can fix it. But we really need to understand where that moisture is, why it's getting there, and how it's generating mold. And again, not to be melodramatic, but that to me is a very, very important first step. We may have a systemic issue that somebody may come back and say, we have to tear half the building apart in order to remediate. That's fine, whatever the answer is. There's another piece that I failed to update everybody on, but we all know about this, and I want to thank Julie Jacobs for pointing out where we can find this. There are some trees that are around the Libby that are deemed to be rare species trees, and I'm not a tree expert, but we have to be mindful of all of that because we have to tread lightly in how we go about whatever we go about doing. So I second the notion that I think Linda and Brian are, that we should add to the scope of services, not just focus on documenting the roof, not just documenting the flooring, not just documenting the framing, but tell us whether this building is the source of mold. I mean, it's entirely possible that it is, and if it's not, great. If it is, what do we got to do about it? So I think that's more of a broader view of looking at it, but I'd like to ask you to add that to it. Thank you.
Linda?
Yes.
In the first paragraph, last sentence, we will also review and comment on the moisture and mold issues that the building is experiencing.
Yeah, but we've never done testing through the whole building to find.
Well, you said there's nothing in here, it's in here. They made a comment about it. They also, in that sentence, said that with all the information they have, they will reassess now all the information they have as far as the existing roof framing, floor framing, exterior wall framing, and foundation. In the last sentence, which I just read. So how much, or they have information now on the moisture and on the mold. They obviously know that. Brad must have brought that up to them because it says we will also review and comment on the moisture and mold. Who's going to do that? Whether they have somebody in-house or they get another expert, We don't know. But it's in here in their thing that they will look at that. So
I think,
I don't think that has to be an addendum unless we want to expand on that one sentence.
I'd punctuate it, that would be really.
yeah, and I think we're looking at some testing, whether they'll do testing or whether they'll recommend some kind of testing.
Well, we've already
that.
done some testing and stuff as far as.
Not where the moisture is coming from. We
well,
know where the mold is,
But
so
they
I
said
think
they would
that's-
review and comment on the moisture situation. So I'm
Okay.
assuming that they have the information
Okay,
Linda?
and they would expand on it.
okay. Paul?
Yeah, and where I was coming from, Dave, and maybe it's implicit in this, is, the last time we got together, which, not to be a little overbearing here, I thought the conversation we had about the Libby Museum a couple of weeks ago was actually pretty damn good. It was like this, and with Jim, we were trying to solve a problem, which was good. The moisture issue that I would like us to make sure, and maybe Brad, we just punctuate this, is I think I mentioned that if you stand outside of the Libby and you look at it, I mean, the parking lot just kind of just points water right at the building. So there may be somebody who comes back to us and says, your parking lot's hosed up. You're dumping 54,000 gallons of water at a rainstorm. We've seen heaving of things. So that's kind of where I was going, is do we have a problem inside what is it that's causing all this moisture to lay up on the building? It may not just be the structure itself, but
I think
I've overtalked it.
When you look at architects' work on it and why we were redoing the parking lot, we were doing that, so there should be some real good information in those reports that we have. I guess I'm with Brian in the fact that if we ask whether there's any testing of moisture that they can do, I think we can ask that and have that part of it if it is. Let's get as much as we can into this exploration of what we can do. And so are we comfortable by Brad adding some conversation about testing of moisture? Are you okay with that, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Ryan?
Yeah, I am, and I would just like to know what experts they're going to have looking at the building, so we know what their expertise is. I think we should, before they go in there, know which individuals they're going to assign, what jobs, what their bios are, what their backgrounds are, to make sure that we have the right people looking at the structure.
Are you okay, Brad, with getting some of that information?
Oh, yeah. I'm just kind of thinking to that comment there that, we have an engineering architectural firm, the H.L. Turner Group, highly qualified here, that would come in and tell us, they'll tell us if we ask them who they're going to bring in, who on this board is qualified or more qualified than them to determine that those are the right people to bring in or not. Personally, I would trust that they're bringing in the right people to do the tasks that we're asking them to do in there. They're going to be all licensed, either engineers or HVAC or whatever type of inspections that they do. They're going to have all the licenses that they should have for it. So I guess that's just a comment I have. I have absolutely no problem asking them that, to provide that. I just want to, put that out there.
Okay.
Linda? When I go to the doctor, I look at my doctor's bio. When I go to my dentist, I look at my dentist's bio. We had a very good engineering department that took and built our first RIB site.
Correct.
So it's always good to double check and to...
But they gave us a nice glossy presentation with all their certifications, so I'm less excited about that bad example.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be much for them to just ship up. I don't have any issue with that.
Also, if you look at their letterhead, what's it say on the bottom?
What does it say?
Building scientist.
Building scientists, which would tell me that they must have a group of people that do all of those different things in a building.
So let's make sure
Certainly
that
more than just architects and engineers.
Correct. So let's make sure that they're using the right people on this project. That's all I'm asking for.
I don't know who the right people are, and I don't know what you do, so.
Okay. All righty. Let me just kind of go back to a couple of things. One, when Paul made the comment, he went and got deeds and everything and warrant articles and votes. That was, other than Paul, all of us had that in a notebook given to us.
I think you had that prior to the vote, right?
We had it all.
Yeah.
We had it in a discussion. Everybody has that, so I'm glad I have it if you ever want to borrow my copy of it. I also want to make the comment that we have heard from the Attorney General's office asking us what we're going to do on this. So we do need to move forward and get something put together. I have somebody standing at the microphone, and I need to ask my board whether you want to take any public comment on this. It's not a public hearing, or whether we ask her to wait for a few minutes and do it under public comment.
Might be absolutely let her.
Okay, there you go.
You're there.
Suzanne Ryan, I'd like to speak to the trustees. Some of you know that I was in house restoration, old homes restoration.
Really?
Done my share of the work physically and mentally. There are people out, you're on the right track. There is a root cause. It's wet. What causes wet? I don't care about the mold. The mold is obviously a symptom of wet. In early structures, which this is, they deliberately don't insulate them. They leave the walls open because there's a natural flow of air that goes out through the roof. What I've noticed, and I've mentioned this, I think Dave picked up on it and understood what I was saying, is at previous trustees meetings, it's 100 degrees outside. You go in the building at 9 o'clock in the morning, you throw open the doors, you let all the hot air into the cold building, and it drips water. So that's a symptom. It drips water where? To the sills. All these studies have been done on this building, any kind you could think of, including financial, and I know sent to the trustees, or what is it, not the Attorney General, Secretary of State, I guess there's a division.
Attorney General's,
What you just mentioned? Yeah. So I know that the Friends hired firm James Raymond of Upton and Hatfield, and they sent all that information. The state has it. You have it. Now, I don't know if it was organized in one big box, but you've got everything from beginning to end. I'm sure some of it, Linda's probably got every piece of paper.
Probably at her house.
Yeah.
So I hate to see you redo studies, but what I am going to suggest as a person who has restored and done and still doing, I'd be glad to give you some names. In the state of New Hampshire, there's plenty of old home restoration professionals and that do barns, buildings, sheds, and they know the construction, they know what's needed in these buildings. They take them down, they reassemble them, they put in new pieces and struts and so forth. I will hand you those names. I think that's the type of person when you're talking about, do we need an engineer, do we need a contractor, do we need a mold person? What I think you need is people that are in the profession of construction of timber frame buildings, which this is kind of like one, although it doesn't have that same post and beam type of thing. I will be glad to send you the names, and you can also get them from, I'll get them for you, never mind. I'll get them.
didn't they use that with the freight station? Wasn't that?
I'm not catching names.
I think they
Didn't they use that type of an engineer for the freight, building the model railroad?
Yes, you're right. I would get other names as well.
Okay.
But it is that type of forensic analysis of the structure of the building, because there's no sense in doing anything else until you know if that frame is stable. That's the foundation of this project. If that frame, and it was built in a very weird way. It's not with the wind braces and stuff like we have. That it was built so it does have some movement. But that's the thing, is that is the root cause foundation of everything is the frame. If the frame is solid, great. If the frame isn't solid, hey, maybe you have to take it down and build a replica. Maybe you only can save part of the frame and rebuild it. I got a feeling there's a lot going on with the sills and from the sills up. Yeah. That bottom part of that whole frame is not good. It doesn't mean it can't be fixed. Yeah, right. But I will send you those names, and I would ask that they be contacted. And any way I could help in any way, I would. Thank you.
Linda?
Thank you.
Linda? Yep. So I want to thank you for that. So we have an agreement, at least we're in agreement, that something's got to get done. What we're thrashing about a little bit here is who are the people that are going to take a look and tell us what needs to get done. I think that's a good place to be. You know, we're past the point of saying it's not a problem. We're past the point of saying bucket of paint, brush, fix it. I think we're past that, and I think that's good because, and at the risk of saying, again, being a little bit complimentary here to my colleagues, I think this is a tough one because there's a lot of feelings about this facility, good as well as not so good. And we just have to step through this set of discussions. So thank you for doing it. And I guess either Jim or whoever will get your list of people to talk to. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, board members, I guess trustees, excuse me. How would you like to move forward? Anybody have a motion? Anybody have a direction they'd like to go?
Well, I think what we discussed briefly was a number not to exceed. And I would say that we probably need a motion to sign an agreement with H.L. Turner Group not to exceed $26,000.
I'm going to second that for conversation.
I got a motion by Dave, a second by Paul. Any further discussion?
We have a thought by Ms. Ryan that there may be some additional resources that we can plow against this. I support getting Turner engaged and going. If other resources are available and can either consult with or provide an independent assessment of, it's worth taking a look at. $22,000 in the scheme of things against what we prospectively are looking at is not a lot of money. And so I will support this motion, and I'll look forward to getting something across the trustees from Suzanne.
The first architect, which was Williams architect, Christopher Williams, was a building restoration.
He was a restoration architect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that is one report I don't have, and I never saw it. So at one point, was the direction we were going. That's the only one I've known about.
I don't think that other went forward. I don't think that other
No, I
went
think it
anywhere.
got stopped somewhere. I never saw
changed
the
their
end.
name, too.
Brad.
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. That was when the Friends group first started out exploring the project there to do the expansion and addition there. There was few meetings with Chris Williams Architects. And the vision that they were bringing on didn't align with what the Friends were anticipating looking at, and that's when it broke off from there. Then they went back out and they ended up with Alba to come up with a proposal that was presented to the voters a few years ago. So nothing was really produced by Williams there at the time.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Brian?
Yeah, so when we were building our log house out on Cow Island just the last 2 years, we hired a builder. Things went south. I won't get into the specifics. The sill was actually built with the floor supporting the home on pilings. The sill wasn't on the pilings. The floor joists were holding it up. So I had to have the house, the first 12 pilings dug and moved when they were underneath the structure. I reached out to the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance and to multiple different builders who built timber frames, log homes, barn restoration, so I might have a lot of the same numbers that Suzanne has. So I agree with Paul that I think that we should look at other avenues to help us going forward. I lived this once. We were to a point where our house was going to fall down this past winter. It's now rebuilt and it's solid.
Any other comments? The motion is for us to get H.L. Turner Group in up to $26,000. And comment made was it's not part of the motion, but we will then look at other restoration type of builders, engineers to go along with this. Am I correct on where we're heading here?
Can that be added as an amendment to that motion?
No, I won't go along with it.
Okay. We can have a second motion after this one is done. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Brian, do you have another motion?
I would like to make a motion for the board to either allow one of our members, and it would probably be Brad or Paul because they are the trustees to the Libby, do some research and find some resources that might help us with old building structures in putting this, cobbling this museum back together.
That's a motion. Do I have a second to that motion? Let me try a motion. I move that we get the list of contractors that Suzanne has and contact the New Hampshire Alliance Preservation to see if we can get a list of engineers, contractors who do old building restorations.
Second.
I got a second by Paul. Any further discussion?
I don't think it's a bad idea to, look at that avenue also. But I think that's something that's a question too, and I'm going to be happy to ask H.L. Turner that.
Absolutely.
As to what type of expertise they have in the older type buildings like this too. They might have the same, who knows, they might already have the same, or some of the same names that are going to come up between Suzanne and Brian, that they would have a look at this also. So it might be, very well could be a part of what we're going to get from H.L. Turner. I'm not sure. We'll find out when we get a more detailed scope from them and stuff on this. So, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have that idea that we want to explore the type of people that work on these older buildings. And we've had somebody there before working on this one, and I haven't been able to connect with him. He was supposed to come a couple times, and he never responded and never got here. Was, gosh, I can't remember who they came in. They did work on the floor system underneath there 2 years ago. New Hampshire timber framers, something like that. But we're gonna explore it more. I don't think we should make a decision on tying in with a company yet until we get through this portion of it here, and see what we come back with that. Then we can determine what road to go down from there. But in my comments.
And I'm for having investigations done on the building. I wish that we would have all the questions answered before we spend the money. No, and I'm okay with going forward with timber, but I would like to know the answers to these questions. Do they have the expertise, H.L. Turner? Who they're going to use? Will they be going to outside sources for to help them out with information? It would have been nicer to know that stuff before we spend $26,000.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Could I speak to the motion?
Yep.
I think it's always a good idea to get a second set of eyes on whatever we do. I think it's what we're trying to practice. And going to the Preservation Alliance, I have to assume that they know what they're doing. I have to assume that. And if I'm wrong, then, you know, I get yelled at. So I would go to somebody who has street creds, and they can look over the shoulder or they can look side by side at what Turner is doing. And I have to assume that there will be a little inspection of somebody who says they're a building scientist. I have to assume, and Brian's right, we better know what their capabilities are. Again, in the scheme of things, the objective in sight is we need a professional assessment of what we need to do with the Libby. And if that takes 2 organizations, I'm okay with that.
Any other comment before I call the motion? Dave?
We don't know that Turner is going to go to some of these people from the New Hampshire Alliance to deal with these kinds of buildings.
Right.
Until I see something from Turner, I'm not interested in doing a lot of extra work.
Okay.
Of having somebody do it. I'm not.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to look for other engineering firms that have some work in older buildings. New Hampshire Preservation Alliance we can check with. That's the motion. I made it. Paul seconded it. Any other discussion before I call? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, it's 3-2, and the motion passed. All right. Okay, I need a motion to come out of the Libby trustees meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
All right.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, just a procedural question. I'm out of practice. So we made recommendations in the Libby trustees meeting. Those recommendations are to the Board of Selectmen. That's how it works procedurally.
Correct, you are correct. So those motions have to come out. So the first one was, Dave, you want to make the motion to sign the agreement at $26,000, which was what you made as a Libby trustee?
Yes.
Okay, Paul, you wanted to second that?
I did.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. We'll go back to the motion we just made about finding some expertise in old buildings. I made that motion, and I'll make it again. Paul, will you second it?
I did.
Okay.
And I will.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We have a 3-2 vote. The majority rules. All right.
Thank you, Linda.
We're moving on. Thank you for reminding me, Paul. Other business. I have a couple of things. The first one is we had a comment made in public about RSA 231:158, which requires cutting down of any trees on scenic roads to come to the planning board if they're a nuisance and they there isn't time to take it to the planning board, that you can get permission from the Board of Selectmen. That is the policy the town is going to follow going forward. I want to remind my fellow selectmen that I need your evaluation forms for the town manager, and to remind you that we will go into non-public after our September 11th meeting to review them as a board, and we'll meet with the town manager on September 18th. Is there anybody else who has any other business?
The only other business I have is something that was put in front of us, and that's about the safe haven baby boxes.
Brian, do you want to do it now, or Bobby was going to do it, talk about it in public input?
Well, I was just going to do just a quick,
Okay.
a quick,
All right.
a quick introduction that I've spoken with Mrs. Budman about this, and I believe that if this can be done without any payment to the taxpayers, I realize that babies can be dropped based on the safe haven laws at a hospital, at a police station, a fire station. No questions can be asked, and a baby can be dropped off if somebody is in dire straits and they don't know what to do. I know that 1,600 babies a year are thrown away. That's the ones that they find, not the ones that actually they may never find. If it can be done at no cost through donations to the town, I don't see a reason why, while we're building the building, it can't be put in. What it creates is an anonymity for people, so that they don't, if they feel very shamed, don't have to face someone face to face to do something for them that might be difficult but is necessary. They might not be able to physically or economically take care of a child, and if that's the route they choose, whether I agree with it or not, it's happened. There's 115 or 116 of these boxes in the state of Illinois, so I don't see a huge problem with it, and I hope that she does a better job than me speaking on it.
Okay, any other business? Hearing none, we'll go to the town manager's report. Steve?
You're up.
Been a long night.
Good evening. So I'm just going to touch base on the storm we had on Monday night. So if you've been around town, we did receive some damage on some roads. Probably the worst is Beach Pond Road. So I just want to put out there that Public Works is doing the best they can. They're getting to them as quick as they can. And you will start to see that stuff all start to shape back up in the next couple weeks. So just try to have some patience with us. If you have something on any road that you see, please call in. On the off chance we don't know about it yet or haven't seen it, we can get it noted and put a work order in for it. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment, Linda?
Yep.
So the other evening, in the midst of that storm, social media kind of lit up with a short video of the intersection of Beach Pond, and I just shot a text to Jim and to Steve saying, just heads up. It was 5 minutes after it was posted on Facebook. Steve came right back and said, "We're already on site." So I say that because, and again, I'm not trying to just, I want to look for some good stuff to do. I want to give the highway guys and the public works guys a little tip of the hat. They were out there and they were on site during the storm. And yes, I'll have patience with it too. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you, and I'll pass it along to the guys. We're very lucky that we have some guys that live local, and when events like that happen, they just take a drive and they go out, and then we start to get the phone calls, because when it started, I had nothing in my house. It was dry, absolutely dry, and when the initial phone call came through, are you serious? And then all he did was just stop talking, and you could hear the rain on the truck, and then it's then the calls go out and we mobilized and opened the road back up as quick as we could. And on Beach Pond, not to get into too much detail or take too much time, that's a catastrophic drainage failure that will be rebuilt. Parts are already ordered. It'll start showing up by midweek, and we'll have it put back together properly so that we don't have to do it again.
Linda, in less than 8 words, communication was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well done. All right, committee reports. Dave, I'll start down there with you.
At Conservation Commission meeting, and as you know, we all spent a good part of the morning with the interviews, and we also spent another morning together at Hazardous Waste, going over what Brian presented us tonight with the cover. It was a nice morning to be out anyway. That's all I have.
Brad?
Yeah, see, we had, last night we had a planning board meeting. We had a couple of kind of the new procedure now. The planner there, we're having the people come in for what I call it, back in the old days, we used to call it pre-application discussions, where they bring in the project for an informal discussion and show it to the board before the application is completed and submitted. One was, there were minor ones, and one was a boundary line adjustment, another was a 2-lot subdivision. So that process seems to be working quite well right now. We had a Wolfeboro Community TV meeting this morning. As Dave alluded to, we all met up there at the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Facility for the site visit. I attended with Linda there last week the South Main water line meeting up at the Public Works Garage. We also had a Wolfeboro Waters Committee meeting last week, and the interviews, as Dave said too, that we all participated in last week. So I think that was it.
Okay, I'll go down to Brian.
So the interviews, again. Energy Committee, we're going to participate in National EV Drive Week. Myself and a gentleman in the committee are going to set up an event during the Fall Festival, and these happen all over the country, where people will be able to come and look at, and one cool one you want to see is the new Tesla Cybertruck that goes sideways like a crab. And does a whole bunch of really interesting things. And the public, usually when they bring their cars to these events, will either drive or let people drive their cars in a loop around town so that you can see what the difference is between an electric vehicle and a car. We had the same kind of event, the chief and I, at the Wright Museum. We went to the Wright Museum car show and set up the police Tesla, and my car was there also, and the chief can attest that we had tons of people come up, all positive feedback, all positive questions. It was great. I'm hoping that maybe I can get the chief to come visit us for a couple hours down at the Fall Festival, too. It'll be the last time this year, I promise. We had an EDC meeting, talked about a lot to do with the EDC's roles in things, and had a good recap about Lake Winnipesaukee Day, and we've had nothing but good feedback about the event. And I'm going to ask Steve, how was the condition of the parking lot the next day and the park?
It was okay. I will tell you, next year we'll plan on coming in early and have the crews in. Parks and Rec did a really good job to pick up as much as they could. And I think when we rescheduled it, we should have done that a little differently. But next year I'll have a crew come in to sweep with the street sweeper and make sure we get it. But
We probably need 10 or 8 more barrels there.
Yeah.
I kudos to Linda, Luke Freudenberg, Roger,
We were garbage.
myself. Who else was there? Was there one other?
Wasn't Lucy there?
And Lucy. We emptied all the garbage barrels in the middle of the event. People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're cleaning up. And I, to be honest, I'm not patting myself on the back. I stayed till 12:30 and tried to pick up as much loose trash as I could get on the ground in the dark.
I got the email.
So So that was it. But the event went off really well, and most people pivoted. The town pivoted. The community pivoted. They showed up even though it was a different day, and it was really, really good. We had the hazardous waste visit. We had a special meeting last week with bike trails, and hopefully things will settle and be better with that. Paul and I have had 2 ambulance ad hoc meetings, and we're starting to get some traction finally. I went to a CIP as an alternate with Linda, and that's about all I have right now.
Paul?
So I guess we called them interviews. I participated in watching two individuals do a pretty darn good job giving a dry run presentation on a set of facts. They were both as nervous as long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs, but they did a really nice job, and they were out of Steve's organization. So those were pretty actually interesting. I did also go up to the solid waste team meeting with Sarah, take a look at the building and all of that stuff. Glad we got that disposition tonight. Heads up to the public, Amy has posted, there's going to be 2 public hearings on the renewal of the cable franchise with BreezeLine. The contract is on the website. This is a non-exclusive deal, has always been non-exclusive. And so there's going to be 2, and the date just escapes my feeble mind. And I, with Brian, have attended the ambulance ad hoc meeting. My comment on that is I think we need to begin making progress. We have a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it. And I think the team is up for it. Thank you.
Okay, I attended the Chamber Executive Board meeting, and what I do each month is present issues that the town is addressing that might be important to the business community. This last time I talked about the public hearings for the sidewalk ordinance, which would affect business. I went, and I'm sure most of you did, had a meeting with MRI, who are going to do the evaluation for our ambulance. And I found that very interesting. I think it's very good that they're hearing from the selectmen. Wolfeboro Waters, and I'm going to pass out to the board. Some of you may have seen it, and I'm going to read it for the public. I don't think I printed everybody. This is the warning. We've had we have had 1 warning and another spotting. And so it says, notice, active warning, water may be suitable for wading and swimming if the bloom material is not visibly present. Avoid contact with any surface scum and keep your children and pet out of the water in the vicinity of the bloom. If you or your pet come in contact with the scum and discolored water, rinse off with fresh water and monitor for symptoms. And they give you pictures on this notice and gives you a place that you can go to. I just wanted people to know that it went up. When the notice came from DES, on the Jockey Cove warning, they asked that the town post this notice at our 2 beaches. So Brewster Beach and Cary Beach, both on Winnipesaukee, have this warning up. And we also had a spotting on Monday late afternoon down at the town docks. I went down on Tuesday. It was not really that visible Tuesday, and I didn't see it today. I think we've had enough rain and wind and stuff, but once it warms up next week, I will not be surprised that we have a bunch more of those warnings. I went to the same Lakes Region Household Hazardous Waste Facility meeting. I went to the construction meeting with Brad on the Pickering Corner to the downtown Smith River Bridge on the Waterline project. And I went to the North Wolfeboro Association's annual meeting this Friday with Steve Randall. And I want to thank Steve for taking his Friday night to do that. He explained to the group the work that his staff has been doing and how he builds and constructs roads. And thank you, Steve. I joined Brian for the EDC meeting, and we had the first CIP meeting, which went over the general rules and procedures and forms. And tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we'll start having presentations from department heads. And that's all I have. Do we have any questions from the press? I don't think we're set up to take them. So I guess that takes care of that. Public input? I think, doesn't seem to. You're up.
Okay, I'll be really fast because it's late, and I know you guys got my emails. Just 4 quick things. One, I know that fellow citizens have asked if the agenda on the website could be updated, because the agenda that I followed tonight wasn't the same agenda that you guys followed again from the website. 2, I'm going to suggest again, I think it's a running theme, that maybe we have a recreation park advisory board. I know we have quite a few people missing from that department now, and watching the presentation this evening, it might be nice to have some public input on a park advisory board about some of the things you were talking about, Linda. I know my son was more recreation with downhill skiing, but did sports with Nordic skiing. So there definitely is a marrying of the two between the sports and recreation. You guys all have a packet that Brian alluded to. I'm not sure what the proper process would be moving forward. Over a year ago, I came before you and suggested right after we started, the voters approved doing a new public safety building, that we make space for a safe haven incubator baby box. At the time, the law had not passed to house an incubator box. Over the course of this past year, the law was just signed in by Governor Sununu, and it actually was our representatives, 2 of our representatives and our senator who are sponsors on that bill. So I think it's important our community moving forward. I just don't know how to go about. It's going to be about $23,000 based on what Chief Sadi got, based on the box, based on shipping it here. At the moment, I'm sure the price will go up. There are a lot of people who want to fundraise this, a lot of money for it, potentially. I don't know if we have to wait for a Warren article. If we do not, and you just need to hold public hearings, if you can just advise, because I know that we can't really start fundraising until we get approval on the fact that you could put the box in. So that, and then I know 4 of you got my email. Dave, I don't know why I cannot send you emails without them bouncing back to me. I just have the wrong email for you or something. But Governor Sununu also signed in the PFAS bill, the 1649. I know I sent an email a couple weeks ago on it. Our effluent waste, I really want to encourage again that we test our effluent waste before we spray our effluent waste all over Wolfeboro and everywhere. I mean, not all over, but you know. Just to make sure we are not spraying, as we boast, up to 600,000 gallons a day of potentially harmful water that could have some of these polyalkylides in them. Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
One more.
Oh, I thought you didn't get up before.
Suzanne Ryan with my list. Something you might want to, it's just a minor correction that you might want to take care of. I think it was just misspoken in a motion you made about the hazardous waste agreement. I can't recall verbatim, but it was said something about the solid waste site was used in the terminology, and it's really the brush and debris disposal site. It's not the solid waste site where they're putting that agreement that you have to put that building. It's the brush pile. It's not solid waste is our transfer station. You might, I don't know, you might want to make it more technically clear.
So technically, under the budgeting process, which is, because I think...
That's not the physical site. They're making an agreement for a physical site.
I'm the one that answered the question, is why I'm going with this. So we classify that in-house as the solid waste facility. So there's just different parts to that whole complex as the facility is one piece of land. So that's how I classify it. However, that needs to go, but I'm the one that answered the question.
I don't care what you put. I don't care. Put what you want, but I think it's more technically clear, the brush site. Do as you wish. On another note, I'm going to hand you this.
Thank you, Suzanne.
The agenda on the website was a mess. I couldn't follow along anything that you did tonight, not one thing. It's all out of order. And in the beginning, even the amount wasn't put in for your bulk vote. So it shouldn't have to be that this board checks their packet with their agenda against the website. Somebody needs to do a check. The other thing that's not too pleasant to bring up, but I was at that, first of all, that presentation by Abenaki, outstanding. Night and day between what we have from that bicycle track thing, whatever it is. I was at that meeting, and I got a feeling the reason Linda went through protocol was because what happened at that meeting. And I'm hard on you guys a lot of the time, but I don't raise my voice and speak loudly as the victim and lose my temper to the board. I try not to. I certainly don't think I have. And if I have, I apologize. But I give Brian credit for sticking up for himself. And any one of you that want to stick up for yourself, stick up for yourself and stick up for the town. I don't see anything wrong with the way that person addressed himself to the board, that a board member stuck up for himself. And I watched this board bend over backwards on multiple meetings trying to accommodate that group to do what they wanted to do on town land. You were sticking up for town land. If I went down to the park and started digging out a little spot where I wanted to put my chair and sit, you could call the police and have me taken out of there for destroying public property. And that's kind of what they have the attitude of doing. That's public property that they may or may not have been destroying if they weren't caught. And checkmate by all of you. You've been watching them, and I hope you keep watching them. And don't give them an inch, because they're going to take the mile. But at any rate, stick up for yourselves and stick up for us.
Any other public input? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave, second by Brad.
We have stuff to
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.